Chapter 561. 34 Chinese Net, in 1 second wonderful pop-up window free reading. Hu Shichen pouted his mouth like an oil bottle. Coupled with his ferocious and horrible face, it was so incongruous that Xianan was speechless. Even Su Li's eyes twitched when she saw it. She said, "Forget it. It's not convenient to investigate it now. When will the spiritual boat restart?" Hu Shichen didn't dare to be angry. He quickly calmed down and said with embarrassment, "Lord, the driving core of the spiritual boat is not damaged, but the matrix of Hunyuan Zhou shield set on the spiritual boat is as high as the 9th grade. If there is no high-grade matrix to protect it, the wind pressure at high speed will destroy the spiritual boat in an instant. But if the speed is low, we can't get to the Xingxian mountain in time. What should we do? I don't know the matrix of Hunyuan Zhou shield." Su Li's words made Hu Shichen's old face suddenly gloomy, and the unrealistic hope in his heart was also broken. Lord Qingshui's figure was full of youthfulness. His cultivation was so high that he must be a top figure among the talents. He focused on cultivation, so how could he be distracted by the tactical matrix? However, I can give it a try. As soon as the words came out, Hu Shichen was stunned. "Lord, you..." Before he could ask, Su Li threw out a ownerless flying sword with a light cyan halo. "Your flying sword was destroyed, and you were hurt. Go back to the room first and come back in 2 hours." Hu Shichen subconsciously took over the flying sword. When he came to his senses, he was shocked and stuttered, This is a precious weapon. Oh my God." Xianan was not surprised. His sister could even give him the extremely valuable poisonous power insect, so she was naturally rich. He immediately smiled and patted Hu Shichen's shoulder. "Thank me quickly. You didn't lose this time, did you?" "Yes, yes, yes." Hu Shichen woke up and quickly cupped his hands and bowed deeply. "Thank you for your gift, Lord Qingshui." "It doesn't matter." Su Li waved her hand casually, and her eyes fell on Xianan. The latter immediately scratched his head and said, "I'm going back to practice." "Sister, you are busy." He naturally knew that his sister not only had unfathomable strength, but also had many secrets. She was definitely a big shot. Since his sister didn't want others to know some things, he certainly had to be a good example. This subordinate will take his leave. Hu Shichen retreated happily, and Su Li was left alone on the bow. Su Li walked to the wooden disc that controlled the tactical matrix and sat down cross-legged. Her palm swept over the first tactical matrix, and the black light rune flashed away. Hu Shichen is right. The core is intact. All we need to do is add a defensive array rune. As Su Li thought, her fingertips brushed over the scorched second disc. A layer of sawdust was immediately shaved off the surface, revealing the original snow-white wood color. Su Li was surprised. It is a 1,000-year-old spiritual wood, which can support the tactical matrix of the 11th grade. Unfortunately, the surface of the spiritual wood is too small. Well, that's it. Thinking of this, Su Li picked up the spiritual pen for repairing matrix, and deductions appeared in her eyes. In an instant, runes appeared on the spiritual plate, and some fell down like black snowflakes. 4 hours later, Hu Shichen came back sweating profusely with the flying sword that was initially refined. Lord Qingshui said 4 hours, and he couldn't be late. But when he came to the bow of the spiritual boat, Su Li was nowhere to be found. "Hey, Lord Qingshui." Hu Shichen patted his head. He wanted to change the best room on the spiritual boat for Lord Qingshui, but he didn't see him. He muttered and walked to the spiritual plate. He inadvertently glanced at the brand new black rune on the spiritual plate on the right, and he was instantly stunned. A new tactical matrix pattern. He hurriedly sat down to check. Although he couldn't tell what kind of tactical matrix was on the spiritual plate, the new tactical matrix pattern was integrated and far more complex than before. It was not drawn blindly. Lord Qingshui is proficient in tactical matrix. Above the 9th grade, isn't it? Hu Shichen's eyes widened. The more he thought about it, the more shocked he was. But his hands didn't stop, and he continued to fill the core of the tactical matrix with spiritual stones. 5 minutes later, boom! The spiritual boat soared into the sky, and the transparent light shield instantly lit up. The reaction speed is 3 seconds faster than before, and Huashichin swallowed and controlled the spiritual boat to speed up. The light shield was motionless, and it was much more stable than the previous 9th grade tactical matrix. It is really a 10th grade tactical matrix. Huashichin confirmed his thoughts, and he was even more shocked. He looked back at the secluded closed door on the 2nd floor. He had never heard of such a powerful female practitioner, let alone seen one. Those talents in holy sects were no better than her, right? Could it be that the Holy Land was comparable to holy sects? Then this Tianjiao battle, Huashichin was shocked, and suddenly a thought that he didn't dare to think about before arose in his mind. In the following time, the spiritual boat encountered several waves of bandits, but they were not troublesome, and Huashichin sent them away. After just one day, everyone finally entered the ascending immortal domain. The ascending immortal domain was extremely small, with a radius of only 100,000 miles. Compared with other domains that easily covered millions of miles, it was extremely pocket-sized. There were no sects in the ascending immortal domain. Except for the wilderness, there was a high mountain in the center that went straight into the clouds, and the top couldn't be seen. It was the famous ascending immortals mountain. In the ancient stone quarry halfway up the ascending immortals mountain, there was a mottled stone wall. From a distance, it looked like a rag hanging on the mountainside. If no one introduced it, no practitioner who came here for the first time would know that the famous Tianjiao list in Qingshui Circle was that rag. "Milord, we have arrived at the ascending immortals mountain." The sound came faintly from outside the door. Su Li slowly opened her eyes, and the jade light flashed away. Feeling the vigorous and surging power in her body, she murmured in a low voice. "The peak of Yuanying realm." After breaking through the Chuangxing path in Jiuzhou region, Su Li's cultivation went straight from the early stage of Yuanying realm to the peak of Yuanying realm within a month, without any hindrance. Su Li was not surprised about this. The realm of her soul and strength exceeded her cultivation too much. For her, the Yuanying realm could only be regarded as a quantitative accumulation, which was not difficult. The Chuangxing path has now become an obstacle to my cultivation. Su Li frowned. Indeed, every time she went to the Chuangxing path, it took her too much energy, and she was in danger every time. However, she did not regret it. Wasn't the strength and foundation that far exceeded her cultivation realm exchanged for the Chuangxing path? However, I have to speed up. Otherwise, if my strength reaches the realm of the great emperor, I have to break through my cultivation realm, be reborn, and become an immortal. But my biggest problem now is not the Chuangxing path, but... Su Li spread out her palm, and a wisp of green flowed through her palm. Sueyu tactics. This mental method could indeed be called the ancient treasure. Just practicing to the 2nd level could help her avoid the harm of the natural law. But, it was too time-consuming to explore it without knowing the secret. And what she lacked most was time. It is said that the ascending immortals mountain is also left in the ancient times. I don't know if I can gain anything. Su Li withdrew her palm and heard the call outside. She changed into the disciple uniform of Jiguang sect, covered her face with a veil, and got up to open the door. "Lord Qingshui! Lord Qingshui!" When everyone saw Su Li, they all showed awe and saluted. Especially Huashichin, his attitude was even more respectful. "Don't stand on ceremony." Su Li's sleeves fluttered in the wind, and a virtual force suddenly passed through them and lifted them up. "Don't be so polite. This trip is led by Elder Hua. Don't expose yourself." Su Li walked to Xianan and glanced at everyone in the field. Her voice was gentle. "If someone deliberately leaks the secret, you know the punishment better than me." As soon as these words came out, Jiang Run and others' pupils shrank, and they all agreed. The disciples of Jiguang sect and Wanjian sect also nodded. Seeing Su Li's dress, Elder Hua understood the reason. He was shocked that Su Li really wanted to participate in the Tianjiao battle in person, but he also said with a smile, "Lord Qing Shui saved our lives in the battle of the Shuyin bandits. How can we not follow what you said?" "That's good." Su Li's tone contained a smile, but the obscurity in her eyes was cold. It was time for holy sects to pay back their debts. After a while, the spiritual boats stopped at the foot of Immortals Mountain. Hu Shichen walked out with everyone. Looking up, they saw an endless stream of spiritual boats in the sky, like a meteor shower, landing everywhere in the wilderness. It's less than 10 days before the Tianjiao battle begins. The Immortals city must be full. Obviously, it was not the first time for Hu Shichen to come here. He took people to a huge and towering ancient city at the foot of the mountain with ease. Is there a city in the Immortals region? Xianan looked up at the city gate tower that was hundreds of meters high and exclaimed, "What a high city, much higher than the mountain gate of my Jiguang sect." The rest of the people also revealed looks of admiration. Not to mention the immortal ascension mountain that pierced the clouds, just the height of the city was enough to make one admire it. Hee hee. Hu Shichen said with a smile, "This city is more than 5,000 meters high, and it is a relic of the ancient times. In Qingshui Circle, I am afraid that only the ancient everlasting city of Tianhe sect can be compared with it." All newcomers are shocked. As Hu Shichen said, he saw more and more practitioners gathered in front of the city gate. He immediately waved his hand, "Let's talk about this after we enter the city. Go and line up first." Su Li followed the crowd and looked up at the obviously brand new city gate plaque. Her eyes were deep, and Black Lotus's endless shocked words came into her ears. What immortal city? This is clearly the enchanting ghost city of our ghost clan. Who named the Immortals Mountain? That is the mountain of the Lotus Immortal cult. Tianjiao list. Isn't that the Wangtian tablet of the primary Buddha ancient temple? The things of human, ghost and Buddhist sects come together and actually coexist peacefully. What a mess. Black Lotus was completely confused, and Su Li could understand most of it. Things of the ancient sects. Maybe there will be news of Sueyu tactics, and this ghost city. Su Li's eyes flashed, and she withdrew her gaze. She did feel an extremely weak calling force, but with the weirdness of the ghost clan, it was still debatable whether it was a blessing or a curse. The guards of the city gate were all maintained by the disciples sent by the Four Peaks. The sects of Qingshui Circle naturally did not dare to act rashly. The whole team advanced in an orderly manner, and the speed was not slow. About an hour later, the people of Jiguang sect approached the city gate. Hu Shichen was about to hand in the document of Jiguang sect, but at this time. Chapter 562. A roar came from the far end of the sky, as if the thunder from the ninth heaven had struck everyone's heart. Those with weaker cultivation in the field immediately bled from their mouths and noses. Even Jiang Run and others felt that their internal breath was unstable and their blood was shaking. In just a few seconds, four magnificent palaces with different numas appeared above everyone's head. All the practitioners were suddenly shocked and made way for a large open space. Su Li retreated with others and watched the four palaces fall calmly. It's the peak holy sects. Hu Shichen's pupils shrank suddenly and he exclaimed in a low voice. Are these the four peak holy sects? The disciples of Jiguang sect muttered to themselves. It was the first time for them to see the peak holy sects, so they inevitably lost their composure. The four people of Wanjian sect were not much better. However, Jiang Run and other 12 people had seen the bloody circle. Although they were amazed by the power of the peak holy sects, they didn't show it on the surface. Hu Shichen saw it and couldn't help but sigh inwardly. They really deserved to be from the Holy Land. Even the inherited disciples in the sect couldn't compare with Lord Qingshui. Squeak! At this time, the green door to the leftmost palace suddenly opened, and a cold-faced young man with an evil aura slowly stepped out. His eyes swept over the many cultivators, and a chilling evil aura spread out, but it disappeared in the blink of an eye. Behind him, many elders in green robes followed respectfully. The first holy son of Ankue Valley, Chu Qingning. He is the holy son of Ankoe Valley. It is said that he is more than 1,900 years old. His poison skills are superior to his peers. After returning to the sect from the bloody accident of Holy Spirit, he has been silent for 1,000 years. His cultivation is unfathomable. Hua Shichen secretly transmitted the sound to Su Li and other people from Jiuecheng. After all, in his understanding, people in Jiuecheng were too uninformed. It was always good to talk about the common sense of Qingshui Circle. Jiang Run and others didn't get to know the core of the Linli building, which was really an eye-opener. They couldn't help but nod secretly. Su Li remained calm and raised her eyebrows slightly. Is this the second test of Qiyu evil skill? In the reincarnation mirror, she once pretended to be Mr. Li and asked Ling Qinglan for the mental method of Qiyu evil skill. So, she naturally knew the bottleneck. If she wanted to practice this method, she had to get rid of 7 disasters first. The first one was desire. When she saw Chu Qingning in the ancestral land of the Ghost Clan, she noticed that he was no longer a virgin. But there was only a breath of a woman around him, and he controlled it quite well. It should be noted that Qiyu Xiangong was cultivated in the reincarnation mirror, which was of the upper grade of the mysterious rank, and it was much easier. The reincarnation mirror played a big part in the success of his eldest brother. Now this method appeared in Qingshui Circle. Qiyu Xiangong was a top mental method of holy grade. After a few years, Chu Qingning had crossed the first test and reached the second test, evil thoughts. The so-called evil thoughts were thinking about doing evil all the time. No one knew how Ankoe Valley suppressed it. Su Li's eyes flickered slightly. The holy sect was really not simple. But at this time, a white-haired old man in the Taoist robe of Ankoe Valley hurried to Chu Qingning in the immortal Ascension City. He saluted and said with a smile, "Your Highness, I have been waiting for you for a long time." Chu Qingning snorted coldly, "10th Elder, I have stopped here for 3 seconds. You are late. How dare you stand to see me?" The white-haired old man's face changed slightly. He had long heard that the first holy son had made rapid progress in his holy martial arts and had entered the second stage. He was very grumpy, but he didn't expect that he was so bad. Before 10th Elder could think of a way to deal with it, the most luxurious and magnificent palace in the 4 major palaces slowly opened. 2 rows of beautiful and dignified maids walked out of it. They bowed their heads and stood silently on both sides. An exquisite woman with snow-white skin walked out slowly. Her golden skirt was dotted with starlight, flashing with unknown power. Behind her, a group of old women followed her. All of them had obscure breaths and were extremely horrible. Such a proud woman stunned the audience as soon as she appeared. But the coldness and indifference in her eyes made many practitioners not dare to look at her directly. They all looked away. This woman was Yin Xuedong, the holy girl of Huangxing Hall. The holy son of Ankoe Valley is still so unbearable. As soon as Yin Xuedong appeared, she did not forget to ridicule Chu Qingning. Her words were not polite. Chu Qingning didn't get angry when he heard the words. He turned his head and grinned, "Yin Xuedong, I know what kind of person you are. The pot calling the kettle black. How dare you say that to me?" Yin Xuedong looked calm, and her reaction was mediocre. It seemed that she had long been accustomed to Chu Qingning's way of fighting back. "Haven't you quarreled enough after 1,000 years?" In the third plane and ancient palace, Fang Mu helplessly led a group of superiors of the Tianhe sect to descend. He was still a young man with red lips and white teeth. He looked calm and sharp. In the years after his eldest brother Fang Yuan left, he finally became a man who had completely sharpened himself. "Fang Mu, don't be a peacemaker." Chu Qingning frowned, "It has been 1,000 years. Are you still immersed in that dream and haven't woken up?" "Silly boy, you are as silly as your eldest brother, and your Tianhe sect. First holy son, be careful with your words." Before Chu Qingning finished his words, the first elder, who had the highest status behind him, immediately came out to stop him. The Tianjiao battle was imminent, and they couldn't have any disputes now. Any grievances could be left to the Tianjiao battle. I know what I'm doing. I don't need you to remind me. Chu Qingming's face became gloomy. He waved his sleeves and swaggered into the immortal Ascension City alone without waiting for people of Xingtian Shrine to come out. The first elder sighed secretly, but he didn't change his expression. He directly put away the palace and followed up with the crowd. Ankoe Valley is also a holy sect. How can there be such a foppish and rude holy son? It is said that his temperament changed greatly after that incident. I see. Some people in the crowd secretly transmitted the sound, but as the last black palace opened, there was a dead silence in the field. Tap, 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 the sound of footsteps approached, and then a tall and cold young man in a dark robe walked out from the darkness. Every single step he took seemed to have been measured, and it was extremely precise. A shapeless imposing aura instantly spread out to the surroundings. The elders and disciples of Xingtian Shrine who followed behind him looked awestruck and followed the crowd. Here he comes. This is the first talent of Qingshui Circle, the first holy son of Xingtian Shrine. Although there was no battle in the immortal Ascension Mountain in the last Tianjiao list, he undoubtedly ranked first on the Tianjiao list because of his horrible achievements. He is called Ling Li, the Emperor of Evil. Hua Shichen transmitted the sound in horror, which shocked everyone. His deeds can't be finished even if we talk about them for 3 days and 3 nights. Without his appearance, Xingtian Shrine would never be able to sit firmly on the throne of the first holy sect. Countless talents died in his hands, and even the talents of the holy sects were no exception. It is also rumored that he is indifferent and ruthless. Although there are 3,000 beauties in the imperial palace, he doesn't like children. Any child conceived by a woman will be executed immediately. Back then, during the bloody calamity of the divine spirit, he was even killed by him with his own hands. The title of demonic emperor is truly terrifying. Jiang Run's brows furrowed as he listened. He couldn't help but transmit the sound in silence. How can such an inhuman evil practitioner be allowed to reach the top? Doesn't the holy sects care about it? Hua Shichen shook his head and laughed. Boy, you are still too naive. Xingtian Shrine is an evil sect. There is no distinction between good and evil in the world. Jiang Run was speechless for a while. These discussions would not be passed to Ling Li's ears. He glanced indifferently at Yin Xuedong, who was expressionless, and Fang Mu, who had a complicated expression. Then he withdrew his gaze, put the temporary palace into his sleeve, and went into the city. What a boring person. Yin Xuedong muttered. She waved her hand and led people into the city one after another. Fang Mu, who fell last, was full of sadness in his eyes, but he soon cheered up and ignited the fire of fighting. He thought in his heart, Ling Li. In the Tianjiao battle, I will let you know that being heartless is not the right way. Su Li squinted her eyes and said nothing. What difficulties do you have? You would rather let Buwang suffer outside than keep him by your side. You even painstakingly set up a trap and spread so many false words. While thinking, Hua Shichen had already handed over the official document and called everyone to enter the city. Seeing this, Su Li stopped thinking and stepped up to follow him. After entering the city, Hua Shichen took everyone to the largest inn in Immortal Ascension City, Tianyek Inn. Most of the holy sects were stationed in Immortal Ascension City. Except for the most mysterious intelligence force in Qingshui Circle, there was no one else who could open a chain of inns in the city. Shopkeeper, we've booked a courtyard. Hua Shichen came to the counter of the inn and handed in the token. The cultivation of the shopkeeper of Tianyek Inn here was not much worse than his. The strength of Tianyek Inn could be seen. It turns out to be the elder of Jiguang sect. The shopkeeper took the token and immediately showed a kind smile. He glanced at the many young disciples behind him, and there was no lack of surprise in his eyes. He couldn't help but salute. It seems that Jiguang sect is expected to go further this year. I congratulate you in advance. Ha, it's hard to say. Hua Shichen couldn't help laughing. He knew that with Lord Qingshui, the position of holy sect was in the bag, but it was not good to show it at this moment. However, after these humble words were uttered, there were actually people who responded to him. It's really hard to say. How dare the little good-for-nothings of your Jiguang sect try to get the position of holy sect? As soon as these words came out, the expressions of everyone in Jiguang sect immediately turned cold, and they all looked back. Even the smile of the shopkeeper of Tianyake faded a little. Su Li looked back and saw a group of practitioners in black and gray uniform Taoist robes step into the inn together. The number of young disciples was no less than 100, far more than the Linli side. When Huashichen saw the leading elder with golden eyebrows, his ferocious face suddenly became more terrifying. He said in a cold voice, "Traitor! How dare you appear in front of me?" Seeing this, the elder with golden eyebrows laughed, "Ugly Hua, you are still as superficial as before." "No matter how superficial I am much better than you, a traitor who betrays the sect for glory." Huashichen looked cold, and his eyes were full of killing intent. "If this place is not Xingxian Mountain. After the Tianjiao battle, you can't leave alive. I should say this to you, shouldn't I?" The elder with golden eyebrows came to the counter with many disciples and took out a purple token from his hand. He glanced at the dim ordinary token in Huashichen's hand and sneered, "You probably don't know that your Jiguang sect is coming to an end, right?" When Huashichen saw the purple token, his face suddenly changed. Chapter 563. Holy Sect's Token. You. Huashichen's eyes widened. The golden-eyebrowed elder withdrew his hand and said contemptuously, "Cherish the last time. After the Tianjiao battle, our Splendor Hall will ascend to the position of a holy sect, and your Jiguang sect will be destroyed." Huashichen's face was extremely gloomy, and fear flashed in his eyes. The Splendor Hall and the Jiguang sect were both high-grade sects, and they were mortal enemies. There had been friction for thousands of years, and many geniuses had died in each other's hands. Now, the Jiguang sect suddenly had the holy sect's token. It must be supported by a holy sect. Although their Jiguang sect had a holy land, its grade was not obvious. In his opinion, the grade of the Holy Land was at most the peak of high grade, and it was still far away from the holy sect. "Oh, I was wondering who it was. It turns out to be Meng Bian, the old dog Meng, who I caught embezzling money and fled for fear of punishment." But at this moment, Xianan appeared behind Huashichen and smiled sarcastically, "Why? You flatter a new backer, and your dog tail is high again." The golden-eyebrowed elder was poked in his sore spot, and his face instantly became extremely ugly. Resentful words were squeezed out from his teeth, "Xianan, you little bastard. How dare you come here?" Xianan laughed and ridiculed, "Even you dare to come here, old dog Meng. Why don't I dare? The trash that our Jiguang sect doesn't want actually became an elder in the Splendor Hall. It's really a veritable garbage dump. It's the most suitable place for you to go there." In the end, Xianan deliberately showed a look of amazement. All the disciples of the Splendor Hall were shocked and angry when they heard the words, and glared at him. "Little bastard. You are courting death." The blue veins on Meng Bian's forehead were exposed, and his eyes were red. He punched Xianan's cheek without saying a word. But before he punched halfway, he was blocked by a palm and couldn't move forward at all. In the Tianyake attic, no force is allowed. The shopkeeper slowly reached out and pressed Meng Bian's fist back. "Does the Splendor Hall want to break the eternal rules of our sect?" Meng Bian suddenly came to his sense, and suddenly broke out in a cold sweat. He quickly held his hands and said, "I dare not. Shopkeeper, please arrange a residence for me." The shopkeeper nodded and retracted his hand. "If not for the holy sect's keepsake, you would have been chased out long ago. For the sake of my Tianyake attic's reputation, I can't completely pardon you. The garden you booked is gone. Would you like to stay in a normal guest room?" Meng Bian's expression changed. "Shopkeeper, if you still want to talk about it, you can go sleep on the streets." The shopkeeper interrupted. Meng Bian's words stopped abruptly. His face turned green, but he did not dare to say another word. After going through the check-in process in a hurry, Meng Bian got the room plate. Seeing the people of Jiguang sect who were still watching the joke, he smiled coldly and said in a very gloomy voice, "Little bastard, no one will protect you in the talents battle. You will definitely die." Behind him, many disciples of the Splendor Hall looked at Xianan coldly, as if they were looking at a dead person. Xianan rolled his eyes. Meng Bian was afraid that he would get angry again, so he snorted and went upstairs directly. When they all disappeared into the staircase, the atmosphere in front of the counter immediately eased up. "Shopkeeper, thank you for helping me out." Hu Shichen hurriedly cupped his hands and said. The shopkeeper shook his head with a smile, "I just protect the face of Tianyik Attic. You don't need to thank me. It's an honor that Elder Hu doesn't blame us for not treating our guests well." "What are you talking about, shopkeeper?" Hu Shichen was immediately flattered, but he was surprised. Did the shopkeeper see that Lord Qingshui was extraordinary? "Well, I am quite free now. I will take you to the Spring Court Garden in person." The shopkeeper smiled, "Elder Hua, don't call me shopkeeper. My surname is Xia, and my first name is Wei. It turns out to be fellow practitioner Xia Wei. I am Hu Shichen." After they exchanged names, Xia Wei led everyone through the lobby on the first floor and walked to the depths along the clean and tidy stone-faced path. Su Li walked in the crowd, and a light flashed in her eyes. From beginning to end, she didn't show anything extraordinary, and she also noticed that the shopkeeper's eyes inadvertently fell on Jiang Run from time to time. Indeed, Jiang Run could become Ling Mo's personal disciple, so how could he be mediocre? His strength was so strong that he could rank in the upper middle of the Tianjiao list. Besides, he was very young and had infinite potential. In fact, Xia Wei did think so. Although the disciples of Jiguang sect were a little few, their quality was excellent, especially the young man in black, whose breath faintly reached the Tianjiao of the upper grade, which was rare in the upper grade sections. If there is no accident, Jiguang sect is really likely to win. On the contrary, although the Splendor Hall clings to the holy sects, the quality of its disciples, thinking so, Xia Wei stopped in front of a spacious courtyard. Although the Spring Court Garden is not the best garden, it also has all kinds of fine products. You must be very tired after coming from afar. I won't bother you anymore. Goodbye. Hu Shichen hurriedly cupped his hands and watched Xia Wei leave. Wow! What a big and beautiful courtyard. It is more exquisite than the zone pavilion of our Jiguang sect. The disciples of Jiguang sect opened the door and looked at the scenery inside the door. They couldn't help but marvel. Ying Qiao and others from the Wanjian sect were even more excited. They quickly went in to choose the room they liked. This group of impudent people. Hu Shichen didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Seeing Jiang Run and others still motionless behind him, he nodded secretly. Then he transmitted the sound to Su Li carefully, "Lord Qingshui, you live in the main room in the middle." "No, I'll choose one at random." "You live in the main room." Su Li shook her head gently and walked into the courtyard. Xian only followed her flatteringly. Hu Shichen understood the meaning and didn't refute. Now Lord Qingshui was a disciple. If he lived in the main room, it would inevitably arouse vigilance if it was leaked out. He had better be careful. There were 60 rooms in the Spring Court Garden, and there were no more than 48 people in Jiguang sect. The rooms were extremely exquisite and luxurious. Except for the main room in the middle, there was no difference in level. After 5 minutes, everyone settled down comfortably. At the same time, on the second floor of the Tianyayan, Meng Bian opened the door and looked at the dozens of beds in the room. His face was so gloomy that it could drip water. "Bastard! You've gone too far. You even let us live in the common room for servants." Zheng Shu, the first disciple standing next to Meng Bian, finally couldn't help it. He was about to go downstairs angrily, but was stopped by Meng Bian. "Do you want everyone to sleep on the street?" Zheng Shu stopped and suddenly turned around. He gritted his teeth and said, "Elder, we are almost overtaken by those good-for-nothings in Jiguang sect. How can we bear it?" A little impatience will spoil great plans. Meng Bian snorted and walked into the room. Come in. A man knows when to yield and when to stand tall. We are suffering now. In the Tianjiao battle, you have to pay back to Jiguang's sect 1,000 times. They will all die. Zheng Shu took a deep breath and said in a fierce tone. He flicked his sleeves and stepped into the room. The rest of the people looked at each other and finally held back the grievance in their hearts. They walked into the room one after another. In the corridor, Xia Wei heard these words and couldn't help but shake her head. Where does your confidence come from? At this moment, another group of people swarmed in from the first floor. The leader was Ling Qinglan. Where is the shopkeeper? Coming. Xia Wei went downstairs and saw Ling Qinglan's face. Her pupils suddenly shrank. Yin tribe, EMO. Ling Qinglan raised his eyebrows slightly and showed a very faint smile. I have not used that name for a long time. Now, please call me Ling Qinglan, Lord of Xingxian Horizon. Xia Wei frowned slightly. She took the token from Ling Qinglan's hand and bowed her head to make the room plate. She said carelessly, it seems that you not only survived successfully but also know a lot. There were many Tianyain in Xingxian City, but there was only one Lord of Tianyain in each region of Qingshui Circle. He knew a lot about the Tianjiao of the bloody accident of Holy Spirit, especially the Yin tribe which had been destroyed not long ago. He originally thought that Emo had already died with the destruction of his soul, but he didn't expect that he was not only alive, but also his cultivation didn't fall. He looked up at the people behind Ling Qinglan. They were all strange faces, but their numas were obscure and extremely extraordinary. The force of record of Tianyain? Xia Wei was shocked and doubtful. When he saw the 3 words, Zhozhou region, on the token in his hand, he was even more shocked. Lord of Xingxian Horizon, you don't need to be suspicious. It won't be long before your spies know my origin. But, not now. Ling Qinglan smiled slightly. During the Tianjiao battle, I hope Lord of Xingxian Horizon will be merciful and don't disclose our information. Xia Wei was silent and thought about the intention. Before he sorted out his thoughts, he saw that Ling Qinglan's face and Numa suddenly changed into a completely strange person, as if everything just now was an illusion. This time, Xia Wei was completely shocked. He didn't even know that the token in his hand fell to the ground. With his cultivation, it was impossible for him to have an illusion. The only possibility was that he couldn't see through the secret skill of camouflage. Thinking of this, he had another extremely frightening guess in his heart. He couldn't help but look at the people behind Ling Qinglan again. These people. At this moment, he finally sensed that a storm was coming. Something big might happen in this Tianjiao battle. Shopkeeper, have you finished making the house plate? Ling Qinglan, who had changed his face, asked Xia Wei to come back to reality. It was a blatant warning. He warned him not to disclose any information about the bloody accident of Holy Spirit to Tianyain before the end of the Tianjiao battle. He took a deep breath and erased the half-finished house plate. He took out an exquisite jade key from the drawer, and his expression returned to normal. He smiled and said, it just so happens that an upper-rank sect had an accident today, so they couldn't stay in the garden. You're really lucky to have Chiu Court Garden. Facing Xia Wei's sudden kindness, Ling Qinglan was stunned. Then he took the jade key and smiled, you deserve to be the Lord of Xingxian Horizon. You are so courageous. If we were in another situation, maybe I would like to be friends with you. Then, I really want to climb up the social ladder. Xia Wei chuckled. As the saying goes, harmony brings wealth. I, Tianyak Attic, am just a businessman. I'm willing to help you with this. Chapter 564. Book Maze Lu, in 1 second, wonderful pop-up window free reading. After sending out the token of Chiuding Garden, Xia Wei personally led the way. After arranging the accommodation of Ling Qinglan and others, he hurriedly told the manager of the inn, returned to the study, and wrote a letter. After a while, Xia Wei put down the writing brush and looked at the words on the table. After a moment of silence, he seemed to have finally made a choice. His face relaxed and he put it in the drawer. Lord Tianqing did have a sign. The situation of this Tianjiao battle is gloomy and obscure. It seems to be mediocre, but it also seems to be turbulent with endless variables. It seems that a storm is coming. Xia Wei straightened up, turned his head, and looked at the sky with his hands behind his back. Looking at the fairy peak over the city, there was a deep feeling in his eyes. Even if you are the fate ancestor, you can't be satisfied every time. It was like that 1,000 years ago, and 1,000 years later, it is still the same. After Ling Qinglan and others moved into Qiuding Garden, they asked a group of young disciples to return to their rooms. Then they took off their disguises and revealed their true faces. In addition to Ling Qinglan, there were Yan Zai, Dongfang Wuxue, LVU, and Li Hai, the deputy lord of Yushu's sect who led the team on the surface. As for Hua Yan and Yi Shui, they stayed in the sect to coordinate the overall situation. If ghosts like when Yuanqing appeared in the Immortal Ascension City, it would cause panic. The secret method that Master taught us is really amazing. Xia Wei's cultivation is no less than that of nature's test, but he couldn't find any flaws. LVU's tone was a little excited. As a casual practitioner of Ghost Circle, he had the opportunity to come to the Supreme Immortal Ascension City in Qingshui Circle. If it was 10 years ago, he couldn't even think about it. When Ling Qinglan heard the word master, he frowned slightly. In his mind, only one person was worthy of this title. However, Su Jiuzhou had done him a favor after all. Even if Su Jiuzhou imitated that person everywhere and he was uncomfortable, he would not say anything on the surface. The Tianjiao battle will begin in 2 days. Let's have a rest. Li Hai said. Yan Zai nodded and smiled. Well, Ling Qinglan, you stay here. I will go out for a walk and see if there is any news of Master. Speaking of which, although we are nearly 2,000 years old, it is the first time for us to come to the Immortal Ascension City. Yes. Ling Qinglan responded. After thinking for a while, he reminded, pay attention to Void Sword Sect. After all, a complicated look flashed through Yan Zai's eyes, but in the blink of an eye, he recovered his open-mindedness and said with a faint smile, don't worry. With Master's secret method, even if we encounter the Void Sword Sect head-on, it doesn't matter. After saying this, he turned around and walked out of the gate, following the path he came from. This scene happened to be witnessed by Su Li, who just came out of the spring courtyard. Zai. Su Li was slightly stunned. She turned back and quietly scanned the neighboring garden with her divine awareness. She immediately saw Ling Qinglan and others who had not completely dispersed. They're actually next door. It was too coincidental. Moreover, even if Ling Qinglan warned the Tianyain as she said, it was impossible for the Tianyain to have one more yard at this time. The only possibility was, you occupied the Splendor Hall's courtyard? Su Li quickly figured out the cause and effect. She couldn't help but show a strange expression. She smiled and quietly followed Yan Zai. Yan Zai naturally didn't know all this. After walking out of the inn, he quickly came to the bustling street. He looked around and walked to the busiest city center. There are only 2 days left before the Tianjiao contest. Master should have arrived long ago, but I don't know which inn he lives in. Yan Zai thought in his heart and walked quickly. After a while, he came to the large square in the center of the city. The square had existed for a very long time, and the ancient traces left by time could be seen everywhere. The black ground was made of unknown stone. Even if it had been baptized by wind and rain, it still didn't have much damage. At this moment, the square was naturally overcrowded. The practitioners were of extremely high quality. They were all dragons and phoenixes among men. Among the 10 people, at least 3 were disciples of holy sects with noble backgrounds, and the rest were at least from middle-grade sections. Of course, most of them were casual practitioners and practitioners of low-grade sects who came to watch the fun. After all, according to the base number of practitioners in Qingshui Circle, the Tianjiao contest was a minority. A gathering of geniuses. What a grand scene. I don't know what my ranking in the Tianjiao contest can be with my current cultivation. Yan Zai sighed in his heart and approached the center of the square. Suddenly, he saw a huge black stone tablet standing in the center of the square, on which many names were flashing. This is... Yan Zai was stunned and walked quickly to the stone tablet. He immediately saw the flashing names, among which the top 10 names were particularly conspicuous. Ling Li, Chu Qingning, Yin Xuetong, Fang Mu, Zhou Linfeng, Luo Hong, Ling Xian, Zhao Qianyuan, Xian Yuer, Fang Lan. Su Li was also in the crowd at this moment, looking at the stone tablet with flickering eyes. Is this the Tianyik Attic Star Tablet? I heard that before the Tianjiao contest, the predicted names of the top 10 talents will be revealed. Why are there so many unfamiliar faces this time? Tut, the disaster 1,000 years ago is well known. Many talents left and disappeared. It's good to see a few familiar faces. That's true. Many practitioners in the crowd whispered. Yan Zai looked at the name Zhou Linfeng, which ranked 5th, and was absent-minded. Junior Fellow Apprentice. He didn't care about other people in Void Sword Sect, but Zhou Linfeng, hurry up. At this moment, there was a commotion among the practitioners. Someone shouted, go and watch the fun. Zhou Linfeng and Luo Hong of Void Sword Sect are on the gambling platform. What? Hurry up. Let's go. If we are late, there will be no fun to watch. Many practitioners immediately rushed to the gambling platform. Yan Zai's face changed slightly, and he flashed away. It seems that Zai has feelings for Void Sword Sect. Su Li's eyes flickered slightly, and she followed him. Soon, the gambling platform was surrounded by practitioners. Yan Zai squeezed to the front without a trace. Sure enough, he saw a familiar face standing on the side of the gambling platform that he hadn't seen for many years. However, the junior fellow apprentice who only knew how to smirk now had a cold face and anger in his eyes. Zhou Linfeng, you are a coward. How can you rank ahead of me? Is Tianyik Attic blind? On the other side of the gambling platform, Luo Hong, holding a long spear, sneered, what? Don't you continue to be a coward? Zhou Linfeng snorted, you can insult me. But you can't insult senior fellow apprentice Yan. Ha 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 ha, that traitor Yan Zai, you still call him senior fellow apprentice? Luo Hong suddenly laughed and said in a sarcastic tone, if Ling Mo hadn't run fast, I would have killed him. It's really bad luck for the Void Sword Sect to meet a traitor like you. Speaking of this, Luo Hong shook the long spear in his hand, and the blood-red brilliant sword, I will teach you a lesson on behalf of the elders of your sect. Luo Hong shouted in a low voice, and then suddenly rushed out with his long spear. His speed was so fast that all the practitioners under the platform exclaimed. As a member of Shura Holy Sect, he was extremely good at close combat. The gambling platform was very narrow, which was just what he wanted. Zhou Linfeng's eyes slightly condensed, and the spiritual power surged between his fingers and palms. It condensed into a black flying sword, surrounded by gray airflow. A wisp of extremely dangerous pneuma leaked out. Void Sword Technique. Someone in the crowd recognized it and was shocked. Only Yan Zai mastered the holy method of Void Sword Sect, and Zhou Linfeng really learned it. No wonder he stood out among the inherited disciples and became the successor of Yan Zai. Seeing this, Yan Zai was gratified, and his mind flashed back to the scene under the waterfall of the mountain, when his junior brother practiced Void Sword Technique hard under his guidance. The silly boy who always said he was stupid and couldn't learn can now be independent. Yan Zai felt infinite emotion in his heart, and the two people on the gambling platform had collided with each other. Clang! The spear and the sword collided, and sparks flew everywhere, which was extremely dazzling. A huge force poured into his body, and Zhou Linfeng took a step back with his sword, but Luo Hong took 2 steps back. He stood firm, and his face was slightly pale. Without saying a word, the long spear in his hand turned into a long dragon, and a fierce attack surged out from his hand, like a monstrous wave. Boom! 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 Zhou Linfeng's face was solemn, and he didn't retreat. Instead, he moved forward and resisted all of Luo Hong's attacks with his hands. There was a loud bang. Shura Holy Sect's 13 waves of blood, and Luo Hong made 4 waves in a flash. It's really horrible. If it were me, I'm afraid I wouldn't be able to resist one spear. Zhou Linfeng is not simple either. He actually blocked all of them. Didn't you see that he didn't even take a step back? I think Zhou Linfeng is more powerful. The practitioners under the platform were talking about it. They didn't expect to see such a wonderful fight before the Tianjiao contest, and they all exclaimed. And the battle between the 2 people on the platform had also entered the climax. Buzz! The moment the 2 separated, Luo Hong suddenly restrained his murderous intent, and his figure quickly faded away. This scene suddenly made the audience fall into a dead silence, and then, there was an uproar. Oh my God, the secret method of the way of killing. Someone has learned the secret method of the way of killing. The Shura Holy Sect has a successor. I didn't expect that after the bloody accident of Holy Spirit, the Holy Sects didn't fall short of successors, and the new generation of Tianjiao shone brilliantly. Yan Zai was nervous, and worry flashed through his eyes. Su Li saw this scene in the crowd. Isn't this the move that Ling Mo used in the Bloody World? Is he from the Shura Holy Sect? She didn't deliberately investigate the origin of these old friends. She would meet them when she dealt with the holy sects in the future, so there was no need to waste effort. She knew some details about the Shura Holy Sect. It was originally a killer force. Ling Mo's cold and aloof character was really a killer material. No wonder he became the head of killers in the reincarnation mirror. When Su Li was lost in thought, there was another change on the platform. Zhou Linfeng snorted coldly. He grasped the black flying sword in his hand and swept out an arc-shaped shock wave. Void sword technique, void shock. Buzz! A shock force rushed to all directions in the blink of an eye, and then a figure appeared in the left rear. Before he could stand firm, the black flying sword swept over and stopped at his neck. You lost. Zhou Linfeng said coldly. Luo Hong's movement was stagnant, and his face instantly became gloomy. You just practiced the first hurdle of the way of killing. Who gave you the courage to slander my senior fellow apprentice? Zhou Linfeng exerted force in his hand, and blood suddenly appeared on Luo Hong's neck. The dark red blood beads dripped along the flying sword. Apologize. At this moment, Zhou Linfeng's words were full of anger, and the suppressed anger in his eyes finally burst out. Chapter 565. Apologize? Not a chance. Luo Hong sneered and suddenly burst into a cloud of black fog. His ethereal voice came from all directions. A traitor is a traitor. Do you think you can defeat me easily if I don't want to use more powerful means? Zhou Linfeng tightened his grip on the flying sword, but found that Luo Hong had already flown away from the gambling platform. His voice full of killing intent came, Our Shura Holy Sect is not good at frontal combat. I will let you live for 2 more days, and I will kill you in the Tianjiao list. Zhou Linfeng's eyes were slightly gloomy, but there was no fear in his eyes. Holy Son Zhou, you won exclusively. The steward of the gambling platform held a universe ring. Zhou Linfeng put it away and took a deep look at the direction where Luo Hong left. Then he calmly stepped down from the platform. Luo Hong didn't use his trump card, and he didn't use any of his trump cards either. It was still unknown who would be the winner at that time. Yan Zai, who was hidden in the crowd, had a gleam in his eyes. The little junior fellow apprentice has really grown up, but he still protects me like this. I am afraid that in the sect, thinking of this, Yen Zai frowned and followed him without a trace. Seeing this, Suli didn't continue to follow him. Although she hated the holy sects, she didn't hate all the disciples of the holy sections. For example, Zhou Linfeng still protected Yen Zai, which was rare and commendable. If there was a chance in the future, she could bring him to the Ni sect and train him well. After the reincarnation mirror, she naturally understood the importance of power. If she wanted to fight against so many holy sects in Qingshui Circle, she couldn't rely on herself. After a while, Suli left the square and went straight to the buildings at the foot of the Immortals Mountain along the streets of the ancient city. The Immortals Mountain was very large, but not all areas were inhabited. There was an inexplicable pressure in some areas, which squeezed all the nimbus in the nothingness. No one was willing to come here. Following the faint guidance in her heart, Suli came to one of the places of pressure, a dilapidated thatched cottage. Along the path overgrown with weeds, Suli slowly stepped into the cottage, raising a thick layer of dust on the ground, which was constantly churning in the beams of light that were cast into the cottage. Whoosh! Suli suddenly stopped. She looked down and saw that a slate on the ground was broken into powder and blown away with the wind, revealing the original black soil. The soil was a little red. At a glance, it looked like flesh and blood. It was as if the world had suddenly quietened down. It was so quiet that not a single sound could be heard. Even though the hut was warm in color, it made the feeling of terror even more intense. This is just an ordinary grass hut. I'm afraid it has been decaying for tens of thousands of years, but it still hasn't collapsed. Suli looked around, and there was a sense of caution in her eyes. There was a strange pneuma everywhere here. Don't be careless. Black Lotus flashed out of the ring. His eyes were vigilant, and his tone was serious. He was no longer as carefree as before. I don't know why the ghost race's bewitching ghost city is here. However, back then, it was a secret realm of the ghost race. Even I don't know all the secrets of this place. For example, I don't have any impression of this place. There was no such place in the previous ghost city. Suli answered softly, but did not mention the feeling of calling in her heart. After the time it took to drink a cup of tea, the grass hut was still quiet and there was nothing unusual. Suli narrowed her eyes slightly and stepped out again. This time, she passed the courtyard full of weeds and entered the cottage. The lights suddenly dimmed, and there was a sense of dampness on her face. But Suli didn't feel comfortable. My clan was exterminated. Even the sacred city was moved, but I didn't notice it at all. Then why do I guard the holy lotus seat? Obviously, he didn't expect that the world would change so much when he woke up. He was so confused that he even forgot to maintain his calm on the surface. Suli didn't disturb the old man's meditation. She leaned against the crumbling door, took out a bottle of spiritual wine from the universe ring, and drank it slowly. There were still 2 days before the Tianjiao battle, so there was no hurry. Although the old man in black was old, he thought fast. After only an hour, he calmed down and sighed, "Little girl, do you have any wine?" As soon as he finished speaking, Suli took out a bottle of wine from the universe ring and threw it out. "It's not good wine. Senior, please don't dislike it." The old man in black took a big gulp of wine and smiled, "Little girl, you are very interesting. I wanted to kill you, but now the world has changed greatly, and it is meaningless to kill people. How much do you know about the Tianjiao battle?" Suli turned her head and glanced at the old man in black, and sighed, "My kindness is unrequited. I saw that no one was accompanying you, so I stayed. I didn't expect that you not only wanted to kill me, but also wanted to continue to gain something for nothing." The old man in black laughed when he heard this. "Well, I will give you the reward for solving the puzzle just now. I have no money, but fortunately, I have some small things to keep me alive." As he said, he waved his sleeves and threw out a light, which Suli caught. After the light dissipated, there was a shabby book lying in her palm. "Notes in the Thatched Cottage." Suli read the words on the cover of the book, and the old man in black was surprised. "You can read the characters of the Ghost Clan?" Su Li didn't answer. She opened the book and glanced at it. She was immediately attracted by the profound practice method in it, and she was secretly shocked. It was worthy of being taken out by the old guy of the All Spirits calendar. This book looked inconspicuous, but it recorded the true explanation of the sword intent. Although she had understood the sword intent, she couldn't make progress for a long time, so she couldn't use the destruction sword intent and became useless. But with this note, it was no longer difficult to practice the sword intent. Su Li smiled. In this way, even if she only got this essay in the Immortal Ascension City, she would make a profit. Since you can read the characters, it will save a lot of trouble. The old man in black said lightly, but he felt a little pity in his heart. He could use the characters of the Ghost Clan as a bargaining chip, but he didn't expect that he miscalculated. I am very satisfied with your gift, Senior. Su Li put away the essay, and her tone became a little cheerful. As for the Tianjiao battle, it has something to do with the holy sections. I also heard it from an elder of a top-grade sect on my way here. The Immortal Ascension Mountain is related to the fate of Qingshui Circle. And the list of the Tianjiao list is tied to the fate of the entire sect in Qingshui Circle. In short, if a young disciple in the sect can get a good ranking in the Tianjiao list, the sect can receive more blessings and gradually develop and grow stronger. And if you can occupy 1% of the fate of the entire Tianjiao list in the Tianjiao battle, you are qualified to be a holy sect. And if you occupy more than half of the fate of the Tianjiao list, you can be the peak holy sect. Holy sect? The old man in black frowned. What's the use of being a holy sect? Su Li squinted her eyes and said gently, only by being a holy sect can the practitioners in the sect break the bottleneck. Otherwise, they can only be trapped in nature's test and wait for death. The old man in black was shocked. Restriction of the natural law. Chapter 566. Senior, what did you think of? Su Li said quietly, interrupting the old man's thoughts. The old man in black frowned and snorted coldly, fighting for fate with the Tianjiao list. According to what you said, it should be the Wangtian tablet of the Buddha Yuan ancient temple, the sacred place of human clans Buddhism. It is said that it contains all kinds of methods, including many secret skills. Su Li pretended to be surprised. The Wangtian tablet? Yes. The old man in black seemed to be lost in memory, but at that time, the human clan who could leave their names on the Wangtian tablet didn't get fate, but Buddha's relics, which could help people improve their cultivation after refining. Changing the world. Letting the Wangtian tablet carry the fate of a world is absolutely against the law of nature. What happened during the years when I was asleep? The old man in black faintly smelled a conspiracy, but helplessness flashed in his eyes when his eyes fell on the black lotus under the guanyin. Senior, haven't you ever thought of leaving here to find out the truth? Su Li's words sounded timely, almost touching the old man's heart. If it was in the past, I might be able to do my part for this world, but now, I can't. Why? Su Li put the flagon aside and looked at the guanyin statue meaningfully. Is it because this thing suppressed you, Senior? You can tell me the reason. Maybe I can help you. Why are you so obsessed with my freedom? The old man in black was surprised. He couldn't help but look at Su Li again vaguely, but the conclusion he got was the same as before. This girl was an ordinary young female practitioner of human clan. She was even too young. Her bone age was less than 50 years, and she was in Yuanying realm. Even in his time, such a little girl was a genius. But when it came to helping, it was a fantasy. Su Li didn't answer. She just stared at the old man in black, and there was only clarity and sincerity in her eyes. The old man in black seemed to think of something. His expression suddenly softened, and the killing intent in his heart dissipated. Well, I don't mind telling you. He smiled, and the wrinkles on his face were like tree bark. Do you know the existence of the Ghost Clan? I have seen it in the classics of the sect. Su Li nodded seriously. That's an extinct race. I heard that it was extremely powerful. Black Lotus, who was in the ring, rolled his eyes. His cunning little master was talking nonsense again to deceive people, no, to deceive ghosts. Black coat, ghost clan, could it be? Black Lotus pinched his chin thoughtfully, but he didn't remind Su Li, this old man is a member of the ghost race. The black-robed old man went straight to the point and said calmly, back then, I made a grave mistake and was punished to swear an oath to guard the Holy Lotus for all eternity until a true successor of the Holy Lotus appeared in my clan. At this point, although the black-clothed old man's mood was still calm, his tone unconsciously carried a trace of bitterness. However, even the patriarch would not have thought that with the passage of time, even the ghost clan no longer exists, who would be able to break the oath? Saint Lotus. Su Li's sight fell on the statue of Guanyin and she said, is this the Black Lotus? Why don't you let me try? Hee hee, the black-robed old man laughed. Even if this old man agrees to let you try the sacred relic of my ghost race, a mere human like you will not be able to withstand it. I repeatedly woke up and fell asleep, but in the end, I couldn't wait for that clansman. My thoughts have already faded, so there's no need to force it. Su Li curled her lips. Elder, don't underestimate me just because I'm young. I'm a heaven's chosen one of the human race. Maybe I'm the one you're waiting for. Ha ha ha. The black-robed old man laughed out loud, little human girl, you are indeed too young. Do you really think that you can do whatever you want just because you have a bit of talent? Seeing that Su Li was still not convinced, the elder in black shook his head and slowly stepped aside. Well, it is fate that we meet. I'll wake you up and make you understand that there's always someone better out there. Humph. Old senior, I'll prove it to you. Su Li immediately stood up and jumped to the front of the Guanyin statue. She asked confidently, Elder, what should I do? In the eyes of the black-clothed old man, her current appearance made it seem as if she didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Holding the mentality of watching a joke, he replied, place your hand on the lotus platform and calmly sense it. Finally, it came to this step. Su Li looked slightly serious. She stretched out her hand and gently covered the black lotus throne. 1 breath, 2 breaths, the Guanyin statue did not respond. Although the black-robed old man did not hold any hope, he couldn't help but sigh slightly when he saw this scene. With a comforting tone, he said gently, this is the 12th grade Holy Lotus. The Holy Lotus has a spirit. Even the most talented patriarch of the Ghost Clan could not subdue it. You are not even a member of the Ghost Clan. How could you, Before the black-robed old man finished his words, his old eyes suddenly widened. He was completely shocked by the scene in front of him. The black lotus throne shook faintly, and immediately came to life as if it had found a home. It quickly became smaller and integrated into Su Li's pubic region. The obviously noble Numa revealed urgency and uneasiness, as if Su Li was afraid of abandoning it. It was as humble as dust. Boom! Without the black lotus throne, the Guanyin statue could not support it and collapsed, blasting a huge pit on the decayed floor. The black-robed old man seemed not to hear it. He stared blankly at Su Li who had sat cross-legged on the ground. His lips trembled and his face was full of horror. The Holy Lotus chose the human clan. Su Li's divine awareness sank into her pubic region and immediately saw the pocket-sized black lotus of the 12th grade that was circling around her black lotus throne of the 18th grade. She impatiently wanted to integrate into it, but couldn't. Su Li looked at the 12th grade black lotus unhurriedly. At the moment when she touched it, she sensed that there was a ghost clan's forbidden oath in her awareness sea. The black-robed old man could not hurt her, but also became her slave. Although the restriction is a little big, it is definitely a good card in this ghost town. Thinking of this, Su Li's eyes left the forbidden oath and returned to her pubic region. Her eyes were cold. Black Lotus, do you still want to continue pretending to be dead? I am afraid that the old guy will find out and affect your plan. Black Lotus's embarrassed voice came into her mind. Congratulations, Master. You got the most precious treasure of the Ghost Clan, the 12th grade Black Lotus transforming into sword. Transforming into sword. Suli thought and looked at the pocket-sized lotus throne flying in her pubic region. It turns out that this is the transforming into sword. She had a good memory. Naturally, she remembered that as early as when she broke through Zhuji realm, Black Lotus told her that the transforming into sword could transform into 18 Black Lotus swords. If she could control them, her power would be infinite. There are some loopholes in what I said before. Black Lotus's tone was a little cautious. Throughout the history of this circle, there has never been an 18th grade transforming into sword. Even the 12th grade transforming into sword is a legend. I thought it disappeared in time. I didn't expect that you are so lucky to meet it. Suli looked as usual, without any surprise of getting the treasure. She just stared at the Black Lotus shadow. What else are you hiding from me? Tell me all of them. Black Lotus suddenly sweated on his forehead. He rubbed his hands awkwardly and said honestly, this old man in black is similar to the dragon's shadow in the ancestral land of the ghost region. They are also old monsters in the years of all spirits calendar. But I have some impression of him. His reputation in the history books of the ghost clan is quite big. If I remember correctly, he should be the only genius of the branch of the prehistoric ghost clan, named Yi Che. There are not many of them, but they are famous for making Yi Ji. In the years of the All Spirits calendar, Yi Ji was a famous delicacy of the ghost clan. Yi Ji. Delicacy? Suli thought of the ugly blue monster she saw that year, and couldn't help but feel strange. Did the taste of the prehistoric ghost clan all have such a strange taste? Ahem, don't think too much. At that time, Yi Ji was as cute as a domestic pig in the secular world. Later, I don't know what happened, and Yi Ji became like that. Anyway, I haven't eaten it. It's awful. You haven't eaten it, but you know it's awful? Suli raised her eyebrows and didn't expose him. At this moment, she finally confirmed the long-time guess in her heart. Black Lotus was not a very smart spirit, and she didn't know how he survived to the present. How should I integrate the transforming sword skill? Suli asked, suppressing the thought in her heart. Open up your mind and allow it to merge with your foundation. However, nurturing these 12 swords is not something that can be done in a short period of time. You need an ocean's worth of ghostly chi to support it. Speaking of business, Black Lotus was reliable. After explaining in detail, Suli let go of the control of her pubic region. The pocket-sized lotus throne quickly integrated into the base like a swallow returning to its nest, without any hindrance, as if the two were originally one. When the transforming sword skill was completely integrated into the base, Suli immediately felt that there were 12 more subtle pneumas in the base, with a sense of coldness and sharpness. And the extra 6th grade pneumas were still in a state of silence. If I find another 6th grade transforming sword skill, can I integrate it into it? This thought flashed in Suli's mind, and then she put it away. The ghost clan had long been extinct, and there was little news about it in Qingshui Circle. It was impossible to find the transforming sword skill in a short time, so she had to pay attention to it later. The integration of the transforming sword skill seemed to be fast, but in fact, it took Suli a day and a half. It's time to go back to Tianyan to meet. Suli opened her eyes, and a very faint black light flashed in her eyes. The black-robed elder, who was meditating aside, sensed the movement and immediately got up to bow. Master, I'm Yi Che. Suli accepted the bow calmly and immediately said, Senior Yi, I accept this bow, and you don't have to bow to me anymore. You don't have to worry that I will ask you to do something with a forbidden oath. Hearing this, the biggest stone in Yi Che's heart was suddenly dropped, but he looked sad and lonely. He was a genius in the past, but he never thought that he would fall into such a situation and become a slave of a little girl of the human clan. Suli was very sensitive, and she saw through Yi Che's mentality. She immediately chuckled, Senior Yi, don't worry about it. Those who were in the same generation as you have already become the ashes of time. You'd better get over it. Relatively speaking, you do get freedom, but I still need to remind you. I don't know how many years have passed since the All Spirits calendar, but the time span is at least more than 40,000 years. You have lived for too long. It's okay if you are in the Xingxian mountain, but if you leave, the natural law will inevitably send nature's punishment. Su Li's words and manners were extremely rigorous, and she seemed to be a different person from before. Hearing this, Yi Chei's face changed slightly, and he finally realized that Chapter 567. Was I fooled? I was fooled by this little girl who was less than 50 years old. Her behavior just now was definitely to lower my vigilance so that she could easily get the Holy Lotus. He was fooled and didn't even know it. The human clan took the Holy Lotus of the Ghost clan. I'm sorry for the ancestors of the Ghost clan. Yi Chei covered his chest and felt suffocated. But because of the oath, he didn't dare to say anything disrespectful. He didn't even dare to ask Su Li to solve his doubts. In the world, there was no reason for a master to solve the doubts of a servant, even if he was suffocated by so many doubts. Su Li completely ignored the struggle on his old face and said with a smile, "It's almost time for the Tianjiao battle. Do you want to stay here or go with me to have a look?" Yi Chei glanced at Su Li bitterly and then sighed, "Of course I will go with you, master." After staying in this shabby cottage for tens of thousands of years, how could he not get tired of it? Even if he had countless complicated thoughts about Su Li, he instantly suppressed all the thoughts and nodded because of the temptation of going out to have a look. Su Li answered softly and turned to walk out of the dilapidated courtyard. Every time she took a step, the weeds that were as high as a person were annihilated by an inch, revealing piles of white bones that were as high as half of her knees. Some of the bones even glowed with colorful jade luster. Su Li raised her eyebrows and glanced at the white bones. Her expression didn't change anymore and she walked out slowly. "Senior Yi, why don't you follow me?" Yi Chei, who had been observing Su Li in the cottage, nodded when he saw this. He flicked his sleeves, and all the bones and the cottage turned into flying ashes. Since he and the Holy Lotus had left, there was no need for the cottage to exist. The Ghost clan was destroyed, so he couldn't cling to the rotten past anymore. He wanted to see if this little master was worth his life. Today was the day of the Tianjiao battle. The plaza in the center of the city was bustling with noise and excitement. The area around the Heavenly Star Monument was completely different from the previous 2 days. There were rows of tall stone puppets made of unknown materials surrounding the Heavenly Star Monument, sealing off the space within 100 meters around it. Moreover, there was a faint feeling of spatial distortion. The Heavenly Star Valley's small world dimension technique allows one to enclose a piece of land and form a world of their own. There's also the Heavenly Star Steel. When Su Li and Yi Chei arrived and saw the scene, Yi Chei's calm face suddenly showed surprise. "The Tianqing Valley has actually survived until now?" Su Li's eyes flickered thoughtfully. The Heavenly Star Valley that Yi Chei spoke of should be the Horizon Guest. Black Lotus had also said that it had an extremely long history. Looking at Yi Chei's reaction, its origins were probably even more terrifying than he had imagined. "Master, even during this old servant's era, the Heavenly Star Valley was an ancient faction that could be traced back to countless years ago. I did not expect that the Heavenly Star Valley would still exist even after my ghost race perished." Yi Chei had no intention of hiding anything. He grew slightly excited. This force definitely knows the reason behind the destruction of the ghost race. Su Li knew what he was thinking. She pondered for a moment and said, "You can investigate it. Also, check the list of glory sects that participated in the bloody calamity of the Holy Spirit and see if there's any difference from the one I got." "Master, what is the bloody calamity of the Holy Spirit?" Seeing that Su Li did not stop him, Yi Chei was relieved and then asked in a low voice embarrassedly. He had just walked out of the thatched cottage, so he naturally did not know the major events that happened in his sleep. "Just ask anyone. Everyone knows about it," Su Li said casually. She turned her eyes and saw Hua Shichen, who was waiting anxiously in front of the puppet. Hua Shichen was anxiously waiting in front of the puppet. The others were nowhere to be seen. Her eyes flashed. "I'll go in first." You can move freely outside. Remember my instructions. I understand. Master, be careful in everything. The sky-gazing tablet is a sacred object of Buddhism. It does not cause killing. But I don't know about this sky-gazing tablet. When Yi Che spoke up to hear, he added. If Master's strength is sufficient, you can choose the left path. I heard that among the human geniuses that went to the heaven-gazing monument all those years ago, there was a saying, the left path is the greatest fortuitous encounter. Su Li nodded in surprise, you know a lot. You are much more reliable than that old thing. Old thing? Yi Che looked blank. The old thing, in the black lotus ring instantly darkened his face. Okay, I'm leaving. Su Li waved her hand and squeezed into the crowd. Wherever she went, all the practitioners who were watching the fun were pushed away unconsciously. It seems that my little master's cultivation is much higher than what I saw. Yi Che took a deep look at Su Li's back and disappeared in the crowd. Elder Hua. Hua Shichen was still anxious. Suddenly he heard a familiar tone behind him. He immediately turned his head and said with surprise and joy, You are finally here. Junior Lord and others have already entered. This is the news I have collected in the past 2 days. The opening time of the entrance of the Tianjiao list is not fixed, and it only lasts for 2 hours. You should also go in and wait. Su Li took the jade slip handed over by him, nodded, and walked to the stone puppet. The stone puppet's eyes suddenly lit up with red light. After glancing at Su Li for a moment, it silently stepped aside. Su Li walked in without looking back, but she was thinking, this stone puppet had the function of identifying bone age. It seemed good to put one in Ni sect. She didn't know whether Tianyik Attic would sell it or not. Seeing Su Li's figure disappear in the entrance, Hua Shichen breathed a sigh of relief, and immediately showed an excited smile on his face. With Lord Qingshui's help, Jiguang sect would definitely be promoted to a holy sect. The sense of distortion lasted for a few seconds and then dissipated. What Su Li saw was a square that was countless times larger than before. Even though nearly 80% of the talents of Qingshui's circle came at this moment, they only occupied 1/5 of the square, and they were sparsely distributed. The square is so large, and it is by no means a waste. The cultivation in the All Spirits calendar year was much more prosperous than it is now. This thought flashed in Su Li's mind. She turned and walked in the direction of the people of Jiguang sect, but found that the people of Ni sect and Jiguang sect stood together, and the opposite were many disciples of Splendor Hall. Which sect do you belong to? How dare you meddle in the business of Splendor Hall? Are you tired of living? In the team of Splendor Hall, someone scolded with a cold face, Get out of here. Yen Zai grinned, revealing his white teeth. You repulsive people want to know the name of my sect? If it weren't for the prohibition of fighting in this space, believe it or not, I could press all of you to the ground by myself. You what? Yen Zai picked his ears and looked like a rascal. At first glance, I know that you are a group of useless people who have never seen the world. You don't even know how to quarrel. It seems that you are not good at fighting. The eyes of the people of Splendor Hall were red, and their chests rose and fell violently. Swish! 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 A few grumpy disciples of Splendor Hall finally couldn't help it. They made a gesture, and several flying swords were unsheathed. Then they saw the sky. A huge suction came from the ground. The disciples who fought screamed, and their hands burst into blood mist. They were sucked into the whirlpool and disappeared. There was silence in the square. The disciples of Splendor Hall were all stiff when they saw several flying swords falling on the ground. A group of idiots. Yen Zai laughed, and his tone was full of sarcasm. I warned you not to fight, but you still dared to fight. Are you brainless? Fortunately, I showed up and sent them out. Otherwise, they wouldn't even know how they died. Shouldn't you thank me? Let's go. The young leader's face was as gloomy as water, and blue veins appeared on his forehead. Hearing this, the flying sword in his hand was almost crushed. He turned around and left. He was afraid that if he continued to listen, he would not be able to help but fight. This person's words were too unpleasant. Ha 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 ha. Why are you leaving? Don't go. I was worried that there was no one to talk to. Yan Zai waved his hand hard, looking mean. The disciples of Jiguang's sect were stunned. They were few in number, and they thought they would be humiliated by the people of Splendor Hall. They didn't expect that when this ordinary-looking strange young man showed up, all the people of Splendor Hall couldn't resist. This mouth was too powerful. Nice. Yan Zai laughed out loud when he saw the people from the Splendor Hall walking even faster. They were much easier to scold than the people from the Void Sword sect. His mouth could only be ranked second in the Void Sword sect. There was one person he could not scold no matter what. Ling Qinglan's eyes twitched, and he turned his head away. The disciples of Void Sword sect were really good at talking. He thought that Yan Zai was reticent and not good at it, but he didn't expect that it was not that he was not good at it, but that no one scolded him. Thinking about it, he had no enemies in Ni sect. Who could he scold? This time, he met Splendor Hall, so he liberated his nature. Thank you for helping me out, elder brothers. Xianan was shocked by Yan Zai's laughter. He quickly cupped his hands and stepped forward to get close to Yan Zai. He looked at Yan Zai with admiration. Elder brother, you are so good at talking. Can you teach me? Yan Zai was about to answer, but he suddenly saw Su Li behind Xianan, looking at him with a faint smile. Senior Qing Shui. Yan Zai suddenly broke into a cold sweat, and quickly bowed his head to salute. He didn't forget Su Li's order, and changed Master to Senior Qing Shui. Elder sister. Xianan immediately turned around and saw the familiar thin figure. He immediately ran over with joy and hugged Su Li's waist. How old are you? You are still like a child. Su Li helplessly pushed Xianan away. Seeing Jiang Run and others coming over, she nodded gently. Elder sister, are these people yours? Xianan couldn't help but transmit the sound in private. Among all the people, only he knew that the elder sister in front of him was not called Qing Shui, but Su Jouzhou. Su Li smiled slightly. Does it matter whether they are mine or not? Just like my name, you only need to know that everything I do is beneficial to all of you. Xianan thought for a moment, and showed a big smile. Elder sister, you are right. Master, we have warned Tianyik Attic, and Xia Wei doesn't dare to act rashly for the time being. Yan Zai transmitted the sound in secret, and Su Li nodded gently. I didn't expect that you have such a glib tongue. Yan Zai immediately smiled. In front of Su Li, he didn't dare to flirt. Chapter 568. The entrance of the prodigy battle was still turning slowly, but there was no response. Qing Shui. Senior sister, we have inquired about it these days. Jiang Run remembered Su Li's previous instructions and changed the way he addressed Su Li. He said with respect, the rules of every Tianjiao battle are almost the same. The first test is to test the nature of the soul to prevent alien races from sneaking in. Sister, I've also collected a lot of information. Xianan glanced at Jiang Run and smiled. His tone implied a sense of comparison. I heard that in ancient times, the alien races were rampant, and the human clan was far less powerful than it is now. They could only survive in the gap between the alien races. In order to cultivate the talents of the human clan, we must first eliminate the spies of the alien races. Otherwise, it is very likely that we will work hard for others. Su Li nodded slightly, but a strange light flashed in her eyes. The situation within her body was very complicated. Even she wasn't sure if she could still be considered a human. She also didn't know if she could pass the first trial. However, since he had already entered, there was no reason for him to turn back. Jiang Run looked strangely at Xianan, who was contending for favor. He coughed lightly and continued, the second test is cultivation. The bone age of the Tianjiao list is limited to 2,000 years old. The practitioners who come in, whether they are 100 years old, 1,000 years old, or 1,999 years old, are treated equally. The higher their cultivation, the higher their initial ranking. At this point, Jiang Run paused and said worriedly, "Senior sister, the ages of the 12 of us. I'm afraid we're a little too young. The oldest among us is only 1,200 years old. Compared to those holy sect disciples who are stuck at 2,000 years old, the gap is too big." Su Li didn't answer when she heard the words. She glanced at the people of Jiguang's sect, who all lowered their heads in shame. "What? We haven't even started and you've already lost all confidence." Su Li frowned slightly and scolded him coldly. Xianan sighed and shook his head. "Sister, don't blame them. You don't know that the disciples of holy sects who come to participate in the Tianjiao battle this time are different from the past." Su Li raised her eyebrows and didn't speak. Then Xianan continued, "In the past, the disciples of the holy sects who reached the age limit of 2,000 years reached the early stage of Huashan realm, which was already very exaggerated. But this time, let alone early soul formation cultivators, even mid-soul formation cultivators and late soul formation cultivators are a dime a dozen. I even heard that the 4 people from the pinnacle holy sect have broken through the soul formation stage and reached the tribulation passing stage. In an ordinary sage sect, he would already be an elder. Could it be that the rumors I heard are true?" Ying Qiaoer's small mouth slightly opened as she exclaimed in a low voice, "A few days ago, when I was at the tea house with my senior brothers, I heard someone say that the people who participated in the bloody catastrophe of the divine spirit all had some kind of restriction within their bodies, and their cultivation speed increased by leaps and bounds. They could be said to be monstrous. A tribulation stage cultivator who is less than 2,000 years old is too exaggerated." As soon as the words came out, Yan Zai and others immediately exchanged glances without a trace. Their cultivation was also very fast. It was really possible that it was the influence of reincarnation mirror, as Ying Qiaoer had heard in the rumors. Su Li narrowed her eyes and thought for a moment. But she didn't mention the bloody accident of the Holy Spirit. She just said, "Since we are here, let's take things as they come. Just do your best. Save your own life first. Do you understand?" "Especially you, Xianan." Seeing Su Li's sight, Xianan shrank his neck and said, "Sister, don't worry. I won't take my life as a joke. I can abstain before entering each level. I will abstain after the 2nd level. I just come in to see what my cultivation can rank. There are many people like me who come in to watch the fun." Su Li nodded slightly and turned to look at Jiang Run. "Go on." "Okay." Jiang Run's tone was calm and clear. He quickly shared what he had inquired with everyone. Not long after he finished speaking, the whirlpool behind the heavenly star tablet suddenly vibrated, and then it rotated rapidly. The secret realm of Tianjiao battle is opened. Almost in an instant, everyone stopped what they were doing and rushed into the whirlpool at once. No one knew when the whirlpool would close. If they missed the Tianjiao battle because of hesitation, they would regret it for a lifetime. "Let's go." What Jiang Run said just now can only be used as a reference. Be careful. Let's go. Everyone rushed out without saying a word. Tens of thousands of genius practitioners of Qingshui Circle turned into a turbulent stream of people, rushing to be the first. The scene was spectacular and cruel. Even some people with low cultivation were unstable and fell to the ground. In the blink of an eye, they were trampled into blood mist by countless people behind them. Su Li's expression didn't change, but a hint of awe flashed in her eyes. She immediately ordered, "Zai and Ling Qinglan, you two go in the front and leave a way for Xianan and others." Yan Zai knew the details of Xianan and others, so he took the lead without saying a word. A strange feeling flashed in Jiang Run's heart. Even if this group of people were old acquaintances of Lord Qingshui, they were too obedient. But at this moment, he had no time to think about it, and rushed into the whirlpool. After the darkness, all the hustle and bustle turned into extreme silence. Suli opened her eyes and found that she was standing alone in front of a huge ancient tablet. She was surrounded by chaos, and she couldn't see the real situation. It seems that everyone is separated and tested separately. Suli turned her eyes and cast them on the stone tablet. According to Black Lotus's knowledge, there was a complete scripture on the stone tablet. However, although the content of the scripture was on the ancient tablet in front of her, the name of the scripture and the opening general outline were erased, leaving a vague trace. Read this scripture and recite it. If you don't have the hindrance of the inner demons, you are a member of the human clan. Otherwise, you will be destroyed by the power and your soul will be scattered. Seeing the last paragraph of the scripture, Suli narrowed her eyes, and immediately pressed her palm on the ancient tablet without hesitation. In just a moment, the golden light of the ancient tablet surged, and countless golden words jumped out of the ancient tablet and stood in the nothingness. Suli's eyes glowed with golden light, and her red lips opened slightly. The scripture came out of her mouth unhurriedly, and every word was a gem. Every time she said a paragraph, there would be a line of golden scripture in the nothingness automatically into her body, washing from beginning to end, as if it was looking for something. At this moment, Suli's mind instantly tightened. Although she still regarded herself as a member of the human clan, after all, she had the characteristics of the ghost clan. Would this scripture let her go? Seeing that she was about to touch the black lotus throne in her pubic region, Suli was about to withdraw her palm. But at this moment, the two divine thunders, which had been calm, suddenly boiled, directly pulled the golden words over, and swallowed them. Buzz! The nothingness trembled, and the originally calm ancient tablet shook violently. Then, more scriptures spewed out. At the same time, the original words on the ancient tablet disappeared, and were replaced by another line of words. At the beginning of peace, all evils retreat. It is a blessing for our human clan. Old monk's relic is willing to be the benefactor. At the end of the writing, Suli had no time to read it carefully. Although the surging energy in the scripture was gentle, it was unreasonably huge. She had to concentrate on collecting it. After a long time, the golden light on the stone tablet dimmed, and the energy subsided. Suli opened her eyes, and a bright Buddha's light flashed in her eyes. The energy was very gentle. Although she couldn't refine it immediately, it was easy to refine it. Buddha's relic, I only mentioned it from Black Lotus. It was the supreme cultivation secret treasure of the human clan in ancient times. I didn't expect it to help me. Suli sighed in her heart. She saw that the line of words on the stone tablet had disappeared, and the original scripture was restored. Under the scripture, there was a blank line. Cultivation, Yuanying Realm, Ranking, 2476. Under this line of information, there was a blank groove. Hearing what Jiang Run said, Suli naturally knew what to do. She took out a white and flawless blank jade slip. This jade slip was specially made by Tianyik Attic. It was distributed to all young geniuses who participated in the Tianjiao battle. By this, they could show their names on the Tianjiao list and divide their sections. It was also the key for all emerging talents to make a name for themselves. Suli gently put the jade slip into the groove, and slightly raised her lips. A faint voice sounded, like a stone thrown on the calm lake, and ripples appeared. I am Su Jojo of Ni sect. Just when Suli engraved her identity, in one of the countless stone tablet spaces, Lingli looked at the scripture stone tablet in front of him with indifferent eyes. Lingli, don't forget your innate mission. You are the keeper of the monument. You are destined to devote everything to the Ling family in your life. Even your life, you will not hesitate. And I, Ling Xian, am the only daughter of my father, the young lord of Xingtian Shrine, and the future fate ancestor. I am the mandate of heaven. You must listen to me. Otherwise, no one can protect my illegitimate nephew. Even if he hides in the Yinyang region, for my master, it is just a matter of a word to destroy a region. Do you know? Before the departure, the cold words of the veiled woman in Xingtian Palace still sounded in his ears. Ling Li took a deep breath, and the killing intent in his eyes faded. He took out a jade slip and put it into the groove. It seemed that he hadn't spoken for a long time, and his slightly hoarse voice echoed in the nothingness. Ling Li of the Fate Palace. As soon as he finished speaking, the jade slip in the groove flashed with white light, and instantly disappeared into the stone tablet. At the same time, Ling Xian, who was far away in the Fate Palace, saw a burst of dazzling light from the black jade slip hanging in the center of the hall. Her eyes suddenly brightened, and her perfect and delicate face showed a smile that made the world pale. But somehow, although the smile was perfect, it always made people feel a little uncomfortable. She turned around, bowed to the shadow above the hall, and smiled sweetly, "Master, it's done. I know that my worthless brother is cold-blooded and ruthless on the surface, but in fact, he cares about the bastard very much. Since then, my Fate Palace has him to participate in the battle, which is enough to be a holy sect. But Master, I don't understand. My Fate Palace has always been low-key. Is it too reckless?" The figure hidden in the shadow chuckled. After a moment of silence, he didn't answer but asked, "If you do so, the fate of Xingtian Shrine will inevitably fall. Aren't you afraid that your father will be furious and blame you?" "Master, you must be joking." Ling Xian's beautiful eyes were full of ambition. "You only have me, and the Fate Palace must be controlled by me in the future. Isn't it the same for Xingtian Shrine? In my opinion, the Fate Palace and Xingtian Shrine are all my forces, and the fate is gathered in me. What's the difference?" If these words were in ordinary sex, it must be rebellious. But when the Fate ancestor in the shadow heard this, he laughed more happily. "What a good child. I didn't misjudge you." Chapter 569. The first level of the Tianjiao list was not difficult at all. It only took less than 2 hours for all the participants to enter the second level one after another after receiving the instruction from the secret realm. Su Li sat cross-legged not far from the stone tablet. She looked up at the huge whirlpool that appeared after the instruction from the secret realm, but she didn't move. Her mind returned to her body. Hua, 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 the sound of tide faintly came from the tendons and meridians. As time went by, the sound became louder and louder, and the whole space of the stone tablet was echoing. That was the sound of blood passing through. The blood sea was like tide. If Black Lotus's consciousness was not blocked by the Tianjiao secret realm, he would be shocked. This was the supreme realm in the legend of body refining. Because of various opportunities, Su Li's physical body had reached the limit of the human clan, which was comparable to the body of a demon beast. It was almost impossible for her to break through in this era. But in this secret realm, she easily broke through the shackles. Boom! With the last loud noise, a layer of stinky black impurities appeared on the surface of Su Li's body. After they were removed, a faint fragrance followed. The fragrance of the soul and flesh is flawless. Su Li's eyes flickered. She stretched out her white hands and looked at them. Then she put them back into her sleeves and stood up. At this moment, her physical body seemed to have completed the last transformation. She became white and tender, and even the temperament of a practitioner was completely restrained. At this moment, Su Li's whole body was full of the taste of returning to nature. If she didn't show her cultivation, she would be like a mortal woman who was ignorant of the world. No one could see how terrible the power was hidden in her delicate body. Suddenly, Su Li's eyes flickered. She seemed to think of something. Then she waved her hand to condense a water mirror in front of her. Although she had some guesses in her heart, Su Li was still stunned when she saw herself in the mirror. At this moment, her appearance in the water mirror was not the appearance of this life. She had clearly returned to the beautiful appearance of her previous life. Only the black lotus mark at the corner of her eyes was still there. This mark not only didn't destroy the beauty, but also added a mysterious and coquettish temperament, which made people unable to move their eyes away. Sure enough, the integration of the soul and flesh is better. Although I am reincarnated, there has always been a gap between my soul and my physical body because of Black Lotus's means. Now the gap is gone. Su Li touched her face, and her eyes were dim. No one knew what she was thinking. After a short moment, with a command in her heart, she activated the myriad spirit technique to conceal her true appearance, and then she stepped into the vortex without the slightest hesitation. After a short while, the darkness in front of him dissipated and was replaced by a narrow space. In the entire space of nothingness, there was nothing but a pitch-black stone in the middle. The second test is to test one's cultivation. It seems like this is a cultivation stone. It looks a bit different from Tianyik Attic's. In addition to the intelligence industry, Tianyik Attic also provided a lot of services for practitioners, including testing cultivation. Every branch of Tianyik Attic with a slightly larger scale had cultivation stones, so Su Li had seen them. However, Tianyik Attic's cultivation stone was only the size of a fist, while the one in front of him was as tall as a person. Su Li glanced at it and pressed her palm on the surface of the black stone. The power of Yuanying poured out. Buzz! The cultivation stone immediately released dazzling five-colored brilliance, which shrouded Su Li. After a while, the brilliance flickered, as if it could not confirm Su Li's cultivation. Su Li frowned. The cultivation stone seemed to notice her impatience. The flickering brilliance suddenly stopped, and a line of ancient characters appeared on the surface of the stone. Su Jouzhou, Yuanying Realm, Tianjiao Ranking, outside 100,000. Without thinking carefully, the cultivation stone in the nothingness disappeared into the nothingness, and was replaced by two vortexes. The vortexes appeared in the sky. One of the characters was blood red, with the words, fight, and the other was light cyan, with the words, retreat. There are too many uncertainties in the second test, so I can't give a specific ranking. Then when I wait for the third test, Su Li's eyes flashed with the meaning of thinking, and then she immediately stepped into the blood-red vortex. At the same time, in the outside square, a large number of low-level practitioners were spat out of the vortex. Hua Shichen, who had been waiting outside, stared at the vortex nervously. Suddenly, he looked happy and rushed to catch Xianan, who flew out of the vortex. Young lord. It's good that you are fine. I thought. Xianan took a breath, rolled his eyes, and said angrily, thought what? You thought I would go to the third test? I am not a fool. Why would I go to the third test to die? Let's go. Go to the square to find the image of the light-splitting stone. Maybe we can see them if we are lucky. Okay. Not long after, the two came to the largest hall on the side of the square. At this moment, the hall was extremely lively and crowded with people. The walls of the hall were covered with mirror-like stones. There were images flashing in each stone, and they were different. The images reflected in them were the scenes in the Tianjiao secret realm. My father told me this, but I didn't believe it. Xianan sighed, now I am convinced that the Tianjiao secret realm may really be a means for the sects in ancient times to train disciples. Otherwise, the layout of this hall can't be explained at all. Hua Shichen nodded and also sighed with emotion, the powerful figures in the ancient cultivation era can't be compared with today's. They have all kinds of amazing means. There were thousands of images in the hall. It took Xianan and Hua Shichen half an hour to explore with their divine awareness. Suddenly, Su Li's indifferent face flashed in one of the images. Found it. Xianan's eyes brightened. Su Li opened her eyes and came to a lonely mountain top. The fairy energy around the mountain top was misty, and it was full of white clouds. In the middle of the clouds, there was a platform suspended in the air. The divine light was flowing on it, and it was indestructible. Su Li glanced at the sea of clouds, and found that in addition to her own mountain top, there were thousands of mountains evenly distributed everywhere in the sea of clouds. Most of the mountains had people, and the remaining mountains occasionally flashed with light, and there was one more person. Su Li was also a newcomer. It didn't take long for her to sense hundreds of divine awareness sweeping over, but soon these divine awareness were all taken back. Ha, Yuanying realm, another one comes to die. There are few female practitioners in the cultivation circle. I didn't expect that this woman is a rarer female casual practitioner. Don't enter the Tianjiao realm before you reach Huashan realm. Those who dare to challenge this iron law will end up miserably. There are a lot of useless people in Yuanying realm in the space of the immortal realm here. If nothing goes wrong, we can all be promoted to the next level of the immortal realm. We are lucky. Many voices came, and they didn't mean to hide it at all. Su Li glanced at the direction of the voice and quickly took back her gaze. She was really not interested in a group of people in the early stage of Huashan realm. Most likely, I was assigned to the space of the immortal realm with the lowest cultivation in the second test of cultivation. Su Li felt helpless. After the first two tests, the third test was the real battle of talents. Life and death were disregarded. Although it was cruel, the division of the space of the immortal realm left a glimmer of hope for many low-level practitioners. Because when every practitioner promoted to the immortal realm, the practitioners in this space could get a chance to choose again. Quit or participate in the battle. Life and death were really decided by a thought. While thinking, Su Li suddenly felt something. She stretched out her right hand and floated in the nothingness. A jade slip fell into her palm. This jade slip was exactly the blank jade slip she put in the first test. But this jade slip was no longer blank, and several messages were flashing. Su Jouzhou, Yuanying Realm, Ranking, 645590, Immortal Realm, 33, 33 Immortal Realm. Was it the meaning of the 33 heavens? Su Li put away the jade slip and looked into the distance. More than 600,000 people participated in the battle, and there were a total of 20,000 mountains in this space. That was to say, the 33rd Immortal Realm was the last one. Whoosh! When the last practitioner appeared on the mountain in this space, the arena in the middle of the Sea of Clouds suddenly opened. According to Jiang Run, this arena would randomly choose a practitioner as the champion. As long as he could survive 10 rounds, he could be promoted to the next immortal realm, and his score would be improved accordingly. Thus, his ranking on the Tianjiao list would be improved. If he lost, everything would be over. Champion, Li Suiling, if you don't come to the arena within 10 breaths, it will be regarded as a forfeit and you will be expelled from the immortal realm. The cold voice in the nothingness fell. The face of the young man in a yellow robe sitting on a mountain suddenly turned pale, and he was sweating profusely. The first champion meant that he would be regarded as a life-or-death enemy by more than 10,000 practitioners in this space. He was just in the early stage of Huashan realm, and there were hundreds of talents in this space who were in the middle stage of Huashan realm. Bad luck. Why am I so unlucky? The young man in a yellow robe let his imagination run wild, and he didn't realize that 10 breaths had passed. Ah! Suddenly, his eyes widened and he screamed. He was swept out of the immortal realm by a brutal force and disappeared. What a good-for-nothing. He doesn't even dare to go to the arena. If it were me, a practitioner on a nearby mountain saw this scene and immediately laughed. But before he finished laughing, his smile froze on his face. He seemed to have heard that if the champion gave up defending the arena, the next one would be the one closest to the original champion's mountain. The champion, Wang Fa. Looking at Wang Fa's dazed face, there was a burst of laughter immediately. I'm not a good-for-nothing. Wang Fa gritted his teeth. His feet moved even though there was no wind. He landed on the stage and looked around. I, Wang Fa, will defend the stage. The laughter suddenly subsided. You're a little brave. On top of a mountain, the young cultivator waved his sleeve with a cold expression. His figure crossed 1,000 meters and entered the arena. He looked at Wang Fa as if he was looking at a dead man. His voice was filled with mockery. But if your courage is not supported by your cultivation, then you're just a fool. Wang Fa, you're even more stupid than Li Suiling. Late stage of soul formation. Seeing the young cultivator, Wang Fa's pupils constricted, and fear filled his eyes. He subconsciously took out his defensive Dharma treasure, but the young cultivator waved his hand. Poof! A head flew high up into the sky, and his primordial spirit was destroyed. Wang Fa was dead. Accompanied by the heavy sound of the body falling to the ground, many cultivators came back to their senses. Then, they couldn't help but feel a chill in their hearts. What a powerful cultivation! What a fast technique! They didn't even see what technique this person used, and Wang Fa was killed. He didn't even have time to take out his soul formation intent. I know him. He's Shen Nan from the superior grade spirit sinking sect. His casting speed is extremely fast, and it's hard to defend against it. His strength is the best among his peers, second only to the saint of the sage sect. Looks like he'll be the first to advance. This person's strength shouldn't even be on the 33rd immortal platform. Chapter 570. After killing Wang Fa, Shen Nan remained calm. He stood on the arena and waited for Wang Fa's body to fall into the abyss under the arena. Then he said lightly, Shen Nan of the Lingqin sect, guard the arena. As soon as these words were spoken, the surroundings fell silent. All the practitioners at the late stage of Huashan realm chose to be silent at the same time. Although it was necessary to compete in the Tianjiao battle, it was extremely stupid to fight to the death with the weakest 33 immortals. No answer. The opponent will be randomly assigned after 3 breaths. The voice of the Tianjiao secret realm was transmitted to everyone's awareness sea, but few people were surprised. Since the Tianjiao secret realm was created to train disciples, it wouldn't let anyone win too easily. However, for the real talents, such an arrangement would only waste a little time at most. Next, practitioners with different levels of cultivation were arranged to go on the arena. At first, there were a few who overestimated themselves and thought they could get lucky. After being killed by Shen Nan casually, the practitioners at the back finally realized their limits. They were all disheartened and admitted defeat immediately. Then, they were sent back to their original immortals. In the Tianjiao battle, if one didn't die, losing one match was not a big deal. As long as one could defeat 10 practitioners in a row, one could be promoted. But for most practitioners, losing meant the end. Even those at a lower level of the immortals could survive. What was the difference between advancing to a higher level and courting death? The 7th, 644446, Sun Delay. I admit defeat. The 8th, 64, I admit defeat. The 9th, I admit defeat. After 4 or 5 people admitted defeat, Shen Nan only had 1 match left before he could be promoted. The 10th, 645590, Su Jouzhou. The next moment, Su Li was directly sent to the arena from the Tianjiao secret realm by a force of transmission. Seeing that it was a female practitioner in Yuanying realm who was sent to the arena, all the practitioners withdrew their gazes and lost interest in watching. Shen Nan looked at Su Li for a moment and frowned. He transmitted the sound, "You don't admit defeat?" Su Li continued to be silent. Shen Nan hesitated but didn't intend to make a move. Instead, he continued to transmit the sound, "It's not easy to cultivate. You're still young. Why are you so stubborn?" Hearing that, Su Li lifted the corner of her mouth and put away the thought of killing him. She transmitted the sound with interest, "Fellow practitioner, you are obviously ruthless. Why are you soft-hearted when it comes to me? I feel a little strange." Shen Nan snorted, "If you want to court death, I'll accompany you." An inexplicable smile appeared on Su Li's face, and she suddenly asked without any reason, "Fellow practitioner Shen, is the Lingqin sect in the Sai region?" Shen Nan nodded patiently, and then he asked in a low voice, "What do you want to ask?" Su Li smiled meaningfully and said softly, "I admit defeat. We will meet soon." Shen Nan was confused when he saw Su Li being ejected from the arena and returned to her original place. Before he could ask, a beam of light fell from the arena and sucked him into the upper immortal platform in the blink of an eye. Then, he disappeared. At the same time, in the video hall, the scene of Su Li admitting defeat did not attract the attention of others, except for two people. Xianan and Hu Shichen stared blankly at the image of the light-splitting stone of the 33 immortals, and they were all confused. He admitted defeat. What is sister thinking about? Hu Shichen was speechless. After holding it in for a long time, he finally said, "Milord might have some sort of plan." For Unity region, in the secret realm, Su Li looked at the pillar of light disappeared, and his eyes flickered. The Jojo region was too special. It used to be monitored by various holy sects all the year round. Good seedlings were poached away early. Although Yen Zai and others were the mainstay, if she wanted to strengthen NI sect, new blood was indispensable. The neighboring Sai region was a very good choice. Of course, this was only because of Chen Nan's display, and she developed a trace of a good impression of the 4 Unity region. If she really wanted to carry it out, then she would definitely have to consider it carefully. 33 Immortal Foundations, upgraded to 645590. Do you wish to continue? Yes. Su Li answered casually with the voice of consciousness. She glanced at the surrounding hills where people quickly disappeared. The team of nearly 20,000 people was instantly reduced to less than 3,000 people. Su Li was a little surprised. Such a spectacle would only appear on the 33rd Immortal platform. She narrowed her eyes. After this round, she was the only one left in Yuanying realm. She could completely use the all-spirits tactics to hide her cultivation. But she didn't. In this Tianjiao battle, she took the initiative to settle accounts with holy sections. Naturally, the more high-profile, the better. Other practitioners naturally saw that she stayed, and many people sneered in their hearts. There is a way to heaven, but you don't want to take it. You insist on continuing to die. Stupid female practitioner. She probably got some adventure and became arrogant. She doesn't know that there is always someone better than her. Tut tut, it's rare to meet a somewhat beautiful girl. Unfortunately, this is Tianjiao's secret realm. I'm afraid that she will die in a while. Next, Arena Defender, Zhao Yang. Before the voice died away, a flowing light shot into the arena. After the light dissipated, a young man with a malicious face came into everyone's sight. Another practitioner in the late stage of Huashan realm. Everyone sighed softly. Zhao Yang is the inherited disciple of the blood cult in the ghost region. His means are extremely cruel, and he has a hobby of torturing and killing his enemies. Compared with him, Shen Nan is merciful. The selected practitioners should admit defeat as soon as possible. A kind-hearted practitioner transmitted a sound to remind her. Su Li also received the sound. Looking in the direction of the sound, she saw a broad-built practitioner in yellow nodding to her with a kind face. His cultivation was also in the middle stage of Huashan realm. The Tianjiao battle is dangerous. Fellow practitioner Su escaped a disaster. You really shouldn't stay. The practitioner in yellow transmitted a sound mixed with a sigh. Su Li smiled gently as a return gesture. Seeing this, the practitioner in yellow shook his head slightly. He could only hope that this woman could make it to the end of this round. The first challenger, 640987, Ao Shichuan. The consciousness of the secret realm said. The practitioner in yellow suddenly stopped shaking his head, and a look of horror appeared on his face. In the next moment, he was sent into the space of the arena. Tut tut, it's you. Zhao Yang's eyes were sinister. With a smile, he slowly approached. Do you really think I can't hear your nonsense? Su Li frowned slightly, but did not move. Yao Shichuan's heart tightened. Without saying anything, he stepped back and shouted, "Slap!" A slap came out of nowhere, and the huge force forced the two behind Yao Shichuan back. Blood mixed with a few teeth spilled out. Admit defeat? That's so boring. I just started to enjoy it. How dare you spoil my fun? Zhao Yang was still approaching slowly, and the killing intent in his eyes skyrocketed. Yao Shichuan only felt cold all over, as if he was stared at by a poisonous snake. He gritted his teeth and said, "Fellow practitioner Zhao. I, the Ghost Valley, wholeheartedly focus on medicine and never make enemies with others. I came here to maintain the survival of the sect." "Why are you so aggressive? Never make enemies with others?" Zhao Yang widened his eyes and immediately burst into laughter. His wild laughter echoed in the entire space. "You are still so naive in the cultivation circle. You deserve to die." As he said, a blood-colored skull rushed out of Zhao Yang's sleeve. The ferocious and gloomy evil spirit instantly filled the entire arena. The blood-colored brilliance flashed away. Yao Shichuan felt a chill on his scalp. His bun fell to the ground, and the neat knot of hair spread out. You are too much." Yao Shichuan's eyes were red. He made a gesture with his hands, and a shadow of a medicine cauldron appeared in front of him. "You can kill me, but you can't humiliate me." An extremely fierce battle suddenly broke out in the arena. However, people with discerning eyes knew that Zhao Yang was not ruthless at all. What he liked most was to slowly torture his opponent to death. Yao Shichuan is finished. Someone shook his head. Although Yao Shichuan had been showing kindness and making good karma with others, who would be willing to offend a ruthless person like Zhao Yang for a little bit of good karma? Moreover, if he interfered in the arena battle midway, if he could really win, he would still have to fight 10 battles in a row, but he would have to fight 1 against 2. He would even have to fight Yao Shichuan's share. The spirit is willing, but the strength is insufficient, fellow practitioner Yao. Someone's expression changed, but he finally sighed and chose to stand by. Yao Shichuan's face was full of despair. How could he not know that Zhao Yang was playing a cat-and-mouse game? However, he could not even admit defeat. "Master, this disciple has embarrassed you." Just when everyone sentenced Yao Shichuan to death, an indifferent but pleasant and magnetic female voice came from a lonely hill in the distance. "Zhao Yang, right? I will be your opponent." As soon as the words came out, everyone's expression froze. They immediately looked towards the source of the voice. Everyone was stunned and confused. They did not know what to say for a moment. The consciousness of the favored one did not care about the strength of the opponent. Seeing that someone interfered, the arena was immediately separated and the battle stopped. "It's her." Yao Shichuan was shocked to see Su Li enter the arena. He immediately became angry. "You, what are you doing here? If I, Yao Shichuan, die, why do you have to pay with your life? Die." Su Li tilted her head and revealed a smile that dazzled Yao Shichuan. "These repulsive people don't deserve my name." "But you, the Ghost Valley, which Ghost Valley is it?" Yao Shichuan was dumbfounded. Before he could say anything, he saw the barrier in the middle of the arena disappear. Zhao Yang's ferocious face reappeared as he laughed sinisterly. Yao Shichuan, you still have a lover. It must be more delicious to kill a fair and tender beauty." Yao Shichuan came back to his senses and his face darkened. "Let her go. Why hurt the innocent? How dare a good-for-nothing make such a request? Let your lover be your companion." Zhao Yang grinned grimly and took out 2 blood-colored skulls. He waved his hands to cut off the hair on top of Su Li's head. Yao Shichuan wanted to stop it, but his reaction was not as fast as Zhao Yang's. He could only watch this scene happen. Many practitioners could not bear to see it and turned their heads away. Boom! With an earth-shattering explosion, the blood-colored skulls were smashed into pieces for no reason. Su Li turned her head and smiled as soft as spring water. "Are you sure you don't want to call another helper?" Chapter 571. One move did not work. Zhao Yang's expression changed slightly. Then, he sneered, "So you have some skills. Since you want to court death, then as you wish, who wants to come on stage? This is a free victory." His voice resounded through the air. Many cultivators were tempted by his words. Then, A mid-stage soul formation cultivator from a heretical sect flew onto the stage. He clasped his fists at Zhao Liang and said with a smile, "Thank you, fellow Taoist Zhao. So it turns out that we're on the same path." "Well said." Zhao Liang showed a rare smile, but in his heart, he was a little disappointed that he was not at the late stage of soul formation. On his path of cultivation, he had been able to live well despite his ruthless methods. He had relied on his meticulous mind and cautiousness. This female practitioner named Su Jojo was too calm, so calm that he had the idea of stopping immediately. However, if he backed out of the arena, he would be the laughingstock of the cultivation world for 10,000 years. Arena battle, begin. Before the voice of the secret realm's consciousness fell, Zhao Liang's eyes turned completely cold. The other evil path cultivator was not in a hurry to make a move. He waved his hand and 2 silver lights shot out. Then, they flickered in the air and actually directly crossed the arena, about to shoot into Yao Shichuan's face. He didn't dare to test Su Jojo, but as long as Yao Shichuan was restrained, the odds of winning would be higher. The evil cultivators behind him finally sensed that something was wrong. This was clearly Zhao Liang's everlasting lightning transformation, an extremely fast killing move that consumed a lot of energy. Why did he use it right from the start? Yao Shichuan's eyes widened as he stared at the silver light that was about to pierce his face. The overflowing killing intent caused his entire body to tremble, and it was as if his blood had frozen. "I can't dodge it. I can't dodge." Right at this moment, a hand that was fair like jade lightly stroked over as if it was taking something out of a bag, and it pinched the 2 translucent arc-shaped flying needles between its fingers. At the same time, a voice that sounded like an orchid resounded by the ears of the 3 of them. "His thoughts are not bad, he's a talent. It's a pity that your methods. I don't like them, so it's useless." Hearing those words, Zhao Liang's pupils constricted, and he immediately felt a suffocating feeling of life and death crisis. He no longer cared about face or shame, and his eyes were filled with impatience as he loudly roared, "I admit." Bang! Bang! After the 2 explosions, there was a deathly silence. The cultivators who had been watching the spectacle, who had felt pity for Meng Hao, and who had been cold and detached, were now completely astonished. In fact, they had even forgotten to breathe. Medicine Stone Chuan was stupefied. His expression became extremely strange because of his complicated emotions. He was just compassionate and kindly reminded this woman. It seemed that she had unintentionally hugged onto a very thick thigh. Su Li walked lightly and waved her hand to disperse the 2 clusters of blood mist floating in the air. Then she turned her eyes and glanced at the 33 immortals' platforms indifferently. "Su Jojo, defend the arena." Oh my god! What did I see? A nascent soul stage cultivator killed a soul formation late stage cultivator with 1 move? Am I dreaming? Monster! He must be a monster. An evildoer is born. Qingshui Circle, which has been peaceful for 1,000 years, will be in chaos again. In the Hall of the Light Diffraction Stone, the moment Su Li killed Zhao Liang in an instant, there was an uproar. The sound of discussion almost overturned the roof. Countless spies secretly sent the news back to their sections. At this moment, countless people were searching for the origin of this woman named Su Jojo. Ho ho, heads of sects, don't make things difficult for me. In the Tianya Inn, Xia Wei looked at the heads of sects gathered in the hall and smiled bitterly. The things you have taken out really make me excited. But, you also know that when the Tianjiao battle starts, I, the Tianya Inn, will not sell any information. This is an iron rule. If I violate it, my days as the Tianya Inn head will come to an end. Even if you give me your sects, I dare not accept them. Xia Yaya head is as impartial as ever. Someone stood up and snorted. He cupped his fists and said, "In that case, sorry to bother you. Let's go." With someone taking the lead, the heads of other sects in the hall left in the blink of an eye. "Xiaoxi, you come to the hall. If anyone wants to see me, I will not see them." Xia Wei gave the order and entered the inner hall. Although he sent everyone away, his years of experience told him that this was the beginning of the trouble. Those holy sects would not give up until they got the information about Su Jiuzhou. Su Jiuzhou, the lord of Ni sect, is such an evildoer. No wonder those people follow her. Xia Wei sat down and spread out the file in front of him. The name, Su Jiuzhou, was written on the top of the file. This scroll was much thinner than the others, and there were only a few words on it. The origin of her daughter is unknown. She secretly controls the power of Jiuzhou region and is the lord of Jiuzhou region. It is extremely difficult to see through her. There seems to be a special method. Her cultivation appears to be in Yuanying realm, but her real strength must be extraordinary. Looking at the words on the file, Xia Wei was silent for a moment. He sighed, picked up the golden spiritual pen at hand, ran the Tianqing secret method, and wrote a line of words. Bone age is less than 2000, but her combat strength is amazing. She takes in the remnants of reincarnation mirror. She has a big plan. Her surname is Su, and she is suspected to be the successor. When he wrote the second line, Xia Wei suddenly felt a sense of horror. His pupils shrank, and he immediately erased the second line. The future is already tilting to her. Xia Wei was still in shock, and his hand holding the spiritual pen trembled unconsciously. He took a deep breath and suppressed the horror in his heart. Qingshui circle is going to be in chaos. No one answered. The opponent will be randomly assigned after 3 breaths. I give up. I give up. Even someone as strong as Zhao Yang was defeated by Su Li in one move. Who dared to go up? Therefore, no matter who was chosen by the consciousness of the secret realm, the latter would immediately increase the number of people, for fear that they would die as miserably as Zhao Yang if they gave up too late. Su Li leaned against the wall in boredom. She condensed the voids softly and waited for the end of the battle. Tell me about your Gui Valley. Yao Shichuan, who stood aside cautiously, knew that the next words must be related to the future of the sect. He took a deep breath and quickly and clearly explained the situation of the Gui Valley. Our Gui Valley is a medicine sect. I heard that it was once affiliated to a sect with a great origin in ancient times, and even had some connection with the Gui Valley in the bloody accident of Holy Spirit. But we don't know why it declined later. Now the strength of the sect is barely maintained in the upper grade. If we don't send people to seize the luck in the Tianjiao battle, it is likely to fall to the middle grade. Many herbs of the sect need luck to maintain, otherwise the survival rate is too low. In desperation, the sect can only send many disciples to maintain the grade of the sect at all costs. Speaking of this, Yao Shichuan sighed deeply. I only got a place after competing with many senior and junior brothers of the sect. But I can't even advance to the lowest immortal state. If fellow practitioner Su didn't help me this time, I'm afraid I would be in danger. Su Li nodded and said, after I advance this time, you go out to protect yourself first. Maybe I have a way to maintain the grade of your sect. That was exactly what Yao Shichuan had been waiting for. He was delighted and quickly handed over his communication talisman. Fellow practitioner Su's means are mysterious. If you can really help my Gui Valley, I will reward you handsomely. Su Li waved her hand and motioned that he could go. She didn't want to help at first, but the word, Gui Valley, was related to the reincarnation mirror. How could she ignore it? Maybe the sect of Yao Shichuan would have the news of Qi Xianqing, the old man. It was inevitable to go to the Tianjiao battle. The process of admitting defeat soon came to the 10th person. After the last, I admit defeat, was finished, the guiding light fell in the Tianjiao space under the envious gaze of everyone. Su Li's figure suddenly disappeared. Yao Shichuan took a slight breath, suppressed the tumbling thoughts in his mind, and sent a message. I quit. He had to keep his life and wait for the female practitioner's message. Although this trip was dangerous, he always had a hunch that he couldn't defeat her in the Tianjiao battle. After a while, the guiding light dissipated. Su Li's feet landed on a stone platform on the top of the mountain exactly the same as before, and the identity jade slip fell at the same time. Su Jojo, cultivation unknown, ranking, 13690, immortal base, 1. The first immortal base. Su Li's pupils shrank immediately when she saw the words clearly. Maybe her performance was too shocking, and the consciousness of the secret realm directly promoted her from the last immortal base to the first. So, it's better. It saves me a lot of time. Su Li's eyes were cold. She looked up at the center of the immortal base and saw many familiar figures. The first immortal base was different from other immortal bases. In the center of the immortal base, in addition to a giant arena with more intense brilliance, there were 10 black crystal thrones emitting divine brilliance above the arena. Under the arena, a total of 20,000 platforms on the top of the mountain were all absent. The good-for-nothing of Shiolua sect is dead. Why is there another unfamiliar one? Su Jojo. A female practitioner. As soon as the corpses on the arena disappeared, someone noticed that Su Li appeared on the empty platform on the top of the mountain. They were slightly surprised when they couldn't detect Su Li's cultivation. There are 10,000 people on the Tianjiao list. Even if the top 20,000 geniuses haven't seen each other, they must have heard of their names. But this year seems to be a little different. There was a group of unfamiliar faces before, and now there is another one. Some disciples of the same sect talked in secret and looked at Su Li with vigilance. After all, none of those unfamiliar faces was easy to deal with. Huh. There is a tactical matrix on this platform, which prevents the cultivation from being exposed. Su Li frowned slightly and withdrew her divine awareness. No wonder no one felt strange when she came up for so long. Master, you are here. Yan Zai, who was on the platform on the top of the mountain far away from the arena, transmitted the sound with a hint of doubt in his tone of surprise. With your cultivation, you should be at the 33rd immortal base. How come you are so fast? I am indeed at the 33rd immortal base. Su Li transmitted the sound, but I came here after just one fight. Yan Zai was shocked when he heard that, and then he said thoughtfully, I remember a long time ago, the ancestor of the Void Sword sect once mentioned to me that the origin of the genius secret realm was not simple, and it was very likely that there was an intelligent spirit of the secret realm. Just like the world in the reincarnation mirror of Master. Is that so? Su Li nodded slightly and glanced at the black throne above the arena. Her tone turned cold. Why, don't I see people from the holy sects? If you want to talk about the poisonous wife, with more like-minded people, follow, you read literature, on WeChat. Talk about life and find bosom friends. Chapter 572. I didn't understand the rules here until I came to the first immortal platform. Yan Zai continued, the holy sects who won the top 10 in the last session don't need to participate in the battle of 33 immortals platforms. The 10 black thrones above are actually 10 small practice spaces for the top 10 of the last session. Su Li's eyes flashed, and she said faintly, it seems that no one participated in the last Tianjiao battle. Yan Zai smiled bitterly, yes, because too many talents in Qingshui Circle died, there was a shortage of talents. The top 10 of the last Tianjiao list was determined by Tianyik Attic. They were the great holy sons of the 4 top holy sects, Shura Holy Sect, Void Sword Sect, Han Sect, Ziyun House, and Xinbei Holy Sect. Xingtian Shrine occupied 2 of them. You should have seen it on the star stone outside. In fact, the ranking has just been changed. Because the Tianyin tribe was destroyed, it really gave Tianyik Attic a headache. Su Li nodded. It was understandable that Ling Li was the first, but she was quite surprised that Ling Xian could rank 6th. After all, in the reincarnation mirror, Ling Xian didn't play a particularly important role, while others such as Su Qingtan and Yan Zai appeared frequently at a certain stage of her hypocritical previous life. Ling Xian, Su Li narrowed her eyes slightly and looked up at the 6th black throne. Then she quickly withdrew her gaze and looked calm. At the same time, Ling Xian, who was resting in the space of the black throne, suddenly opened her eyes. There was a trace of uncertainty in her eyes. Why did I feel a palpitation just now? She subconsciously wanted to pinch the incantation of the Fate Palace, but she paused and frowned. In the Xingxian mountain, the deduction method was ineffective, so she couldn't predict the palpitation just now by any means. Ling Li has changed to the Fate Palace, and the general trend has been established. Will there be any accident? Who is scheming against me? Ling Xian's white and perfect face faintly showed a trace of gloom. The Battle of 33 Immortals platforms would last for a whole year. During this year, people would constantly advance, be eliminated, and die, until only 20,000 practitioners of the first immortal platform were left to enter the next round. The rules of the first immortal platform were different from those of the following 32 immortals platforms. It was a ranking battle with hidden rules. The number of battles was determined according to strength. No one knew when they would fight and how many battles they would fight. Su Li was quite helpless when she heard the news from Yan Zai, but she also felt it was normal. The whole competition of the talents of Qingshui in Qingshui realm lasted for a year. Quite bored, Su Li took out notes on the thatched cottage and began to study. Speaking of which, she was ashamed. Ever since she had stepped into the threshold of the destruction sword intent in the star path, she hadn't spent much time on the sword intent. Even now, she was still at the level of entering the next level. Yi Che, the old man, had lived for at least 40,000 years. Her understanding of the sword art was extraordinary. If she could comprehend this booklet, she would at least be able to reach the mastery level of the destruction sword intent, and the power of her sword art would at least double. Those who could come to the first immortal platform were no fools. Many had already sat down cross-legged and were quietly improving themselves. There were also many who were watching the battles to accumulate experience. The top 20,000 talents in Qingshui Circle fought against each other. Every battle had its highlights and was brilliant. If there was a rare battle, even Su Li would sometimes put down the booklet in her hand and watch the battle. In this way, after a few days of leisure, Su Li finally ushered in the first game. Rank 13690. Yes, rank 8890. The cold voice of the secret realm sounded in the nothingness. Su Li felt the jade rune in her hand was slightly hot, and then she was transmitted to the center of the platform. When she saw her opponent, her face suddenly showed a strange expression. It's her. The talents who had chosen to watch the battle were excited when they saw this scene. This woman has been promoted for several days. She is finally on the stage. Rank 13690, only 3,000 places away from entering the Tianjiao list. This initial rank is quite high. This woman is really not easy to deal with. However, when people saw the opponent of Su Li, they all showed pity. She is really unlucky to fight against Jing Shu. Yes. Although Jiguang Hall is only a top-grade sect, Zheng Shu's performance is no less than that of holy sects. He must have had an adventure in the past 1,000 years. Otherwise, how could he reach the peak of Huashan realm from an insignificant Yuanying realm? The cultivation of the peak of Huashan realm. Except for those abnormal people, he is almost at the top. If Zheng Shu had not been on the stage so few times, he would definitely be in the top 1,000. I think it's still unknown who will win. Suddenly, Yan Zai, who had been silent, smiled casually. The discussion around immediately quieted down, and no one dared to talk casually. Although they didn't agree with Yan Zai's words, but, this unknown ruthless person killed the holy son of a holy sect, who was ranked in the top 200, in one move. I've seen you. Zheng Shu's gloomy face showed a smile. Before entering the secret realm, you were from Jiguang's sect. Su Li slightly raised her eyebrows and smiled. Sometimes what you see with your own eyes is not necessarily true. You are afraid now. Zheng Shu couldn't hold back the anger in his heart, and his smile turned ferocious. You dare to humiliate my Jiguang Hall in the Tianyain. Today, I will let that Hu feel the pain of losing a disciple. As he said, he lowered his hands, and a mark on his arm suddenly came to life. It turned into a long white snake and rushed to Su Li in a flash of lightning. Su Li yawned and patted the white snake casually. Boom. The lightning scattered all over the sky and fell on the shoulder of Zheng Shu, who was shocked and frightened. Good momentum. Su Li squinted and smiled. She clapped her hands, but your strength is a little weak. Boom. Zheng Shu's physical body suddenly exploded, and the lightning that had not yet dissipated dotted the blood red, which was actually a bit beautiful. Silence. After the silence, a strong chill pervaded everyone's heart. A person at the peak of Huashan realm died like this? Some of them didn't even have the chance to speak, and Zheng Shu died. Ranked 13690, victory. Ranking promotion, 639. Ranking 639. Any objection? The practitioner in yellow standing on one of the immortal platforms suddenly shivered, and his face turned pale with fright. He said immediately, no objection. Damn it, the secret realm actually didn't play cards according to common sense. This demon girl's strength was horrible, and her means were cruel. He was only at the peak of Huashan realm, and he would definitely be defeated by her in one move. So, the ranking is adjusted. The immortal platforms are vacant, and one person will be selected to be promoted from the ring below. Su Li returned to the immortal platform, glanced at the ranking on the jade token, and sat down again to pick up notes in the cottage. This time, even if Yan Zai didn't speak, no one dared to say a word. With the occurrence of this battle, the undercurrent in the outside world was even more turbulent. All the departments in charge of intelligence in the holy sects almost quarreled. Directly broke into the top 700. Where did this dark horse come from? What? She is Su Jojo, and directly promoted from the 33 immortal platforms to the first one? Investigate. Investigate it. And the two unknown pawns who are also amazing. If you can't find out their origin, all of you, get out of here. On the immortal platform, Ling Qinglan frowned and looked at Su Li, who was studying the unknown book. Compared to when they first met, she was much, much stronger. Thinking about it, in just 9 years, Su Jojo actually completed the leap from Jindan realm to nature's test realm, and even a higher level. How did she do it? Is this what an evildoer is like? Breaking the convention and doing what ordinary people can't do. At this moment, his thoughts were a little complicated. Every moment, he was thinking that the person could reappear and lead them to complete the revenge. But his reason told him that this idea was too naive, so naive that it couldn't be realized. Perhaps, today is the best way. I shouldn't struggle anymore. Ling Qinglan smiled slightly bitterly, and suddenly became solemn. He transmitted the sound, Master, what you asked me to do before has been completed. Su Li's body suddenly stiffened, and then she immediately relaxed. She transmitted the sound with a smile, is it finished? As I expected, Qinglan, you are finally willing to call me Master like Yan Zai and others? Very good. One day, I will let you know that you won't be disgusted with today's choice. Ling Qinglan smiled reluctantly, thank you for your kindness, Master. I won't be disgusted. Oh, really? Su Li glanced at Ling Qinglan meaningfully, and then immersed herself in the swordsmanship again. This time, no one noticed the eye contact except for one person. Is that Su Jojo? She is exactly the same as the portrait that my junior fellow apprentice gave me. In the first few immortal platforms, a handsome man in white with white hair and white eyebrows frowned and thought. Su Jojo saved his junior fellow apprentice's life that year, so he remembered her appearance and intended to protect her. He didn't expect that he couldn't see through the strength of this woman. At least, it was impossible for him to be so casual when facing Zheng Shu. It seems that I don't need to protect her, but I can still convey my kindness. A smile appeared on the handsome man's face, and it immediately surprised several people in the immortal platforms around him. At the same time, on the other side of the immortal platform, the enchanting woman in purple who was leaning on the velvet sofa was smiling, but her beautiful eyes were hazy. She snorted coldly in her heart. Useless. Damn it. I tried so hard to introduce her, and she died so early. Is this woman Su Jojo that my junior sister apprentice mentioned? She is a tricky person. It seems that I have to use the means of the Great Master. If she threatens the plan of the Great Master, it will be bad. In the following days, although many people died on the arena, it was meaningless garbage time for Su Li. She could only pass the time by notes on the cottage. During this period, talents died constantly, and the people in the immortal platforms below were replaced. On the 13th day, Jiang Run appeared from one of the immortal platforms with a pale face. Then he couldn't help but be excited and clenched his fists hard. Soon after, another acquaintance was promoted. It was Ying Qiaoer of the Wanjian sect. Since the spiritual boat was in danger, that girl's attitude towards Su Li was a little too enthusiastic, which made Su Li quite uncomfortable. Lord Qingshui. Sure enough, the first thing that Ying Qiaoer did after her promotion was to look for Su Li. After finding her, she transmitted the sound happily. Su Li smiled helplessly. When she was about to say something, the sound of the secret realm suddenly sounded. Chapter 573. Ranked 19999. Yes, ranked 2933. Before they could say anything, Ying Qiaoer's figure was sent into the arena. Su Li's brows suddenly wrinkled slightly. I'm on the arena so soon. Ying Qiaoer was slightly shocked, but she quickly adjusted her mind and stared at the effeminate-looking young man. The ground was soon covered with a layer of frost. What a strong chill. She was no match for him. Ying Qiaoer took 2 steps back solemnly. Ranked 19999. Do you want to use me as a stepping stone just after your promotion? The effeminate-looking young man raised his head and looked at Ying Qiaoer coldly. I don't have tender feelings for the fairer sex. Ying Qiaoer was slightly angry. She raised her eyebrows and said coldly, who asked you to have tender feelings for the fairer sex? Let's fight in the talent battle. Even if she was no match for him, she still wanted to try. Her master had trained them for many years and she knew how much expectation her master had. How could she back down now? Even a trash like you won't admit defeat? Seeing Ying Qiaoer's determined face, the effeminate-looking young man's face suddenly darkened. It seemed that he thought of something unpleasant. He snorted and a cold light flashed out. Crack! Ying Qiaoer screamed and couldn't dodge in time. A bloody hole appeared on her right arm. Blood spilled. She was in danger. That is Zhao Qianlin of the Han sect, the younger brother of Zhao Qianyuan, the first holy son of the Han sect. He is not famous, but his strength is extraordinary. Ying Qiaoer is no match for him. She should admit defeat earlier, otherwise. Yan Zai's worried voice came into her ears. Su Li's expression didn't change much, but she frowned more tightly. Lord Qingshui, what about Ying Qiaoer? Jiang Run's anxious voice came. Although he had only known Ying Qiaoer for a few days, he didn't want any of his companions to die in the talent battle. Su Li was silent for a moment and activated the Jade Rune. Spirit of the Secret Realm, can you intervene in the battle? After a moment of silence, the response slowly sounded in the space. The first immortal platform is not a low-grade one. Unless I admit defeat, no one can intervene. When this response came out, everyone's attention was immediately drawn away from the arena, and they all looked at Su Li. She's from the same force as the female cultivator in the arena. Maybe she's her junior sister. What a pity, that little girl seems to be dead for sure. Unable to interfere. Ling Qinglan and Yan Zai's faces were cold at the same time. Su Li narrowed her eyes, and several dangerous thoughts flashed through her mind. Suddenly, a gentle voice came into her ears. Fellow Daoist Su, please don't be impatient. I'm one of the top rankers, so I can send a voice transmission into the arena. Why don't I persuade Zhao Qianlin on your behalf? I believe that he definitely wouldn't want to make an enemy out of nothing. Su Li was slightly stunned. She looked up and saw a man in white sitting on the platform, smiling and nodding to her. Although she did not know who this person was, she did not hesitate and nodded in response. Thank you for your help. Don't worry, it's nothing. The white-robed man's expression became solemn, and his lips moved. As expected, Zhao Qianlin looked at Su Li on the arena. He looked a little shaken and moved much slower. When the heavily injured Ing Qiao saw this, she was overjoyed. She immediately seized the opportunity to shout. However, at this moment, Zhao Qianlin's expression suddenly turned extremely gloomy and crazy. Puff! A throbbing heart was caught in his hand, and he ruthlessly crushed it. Bright blood sprayed out and dotted Zhao Qianlin's ferocious face. Ing Qiao looked down at her pierced chest blankly. Her face full of blood showed a bitter smile, and her weak voice sounded intermittently. Master! I'm unfilial. Zhao Qianlin's expression did not change. He withdrew his hand from his chest, and a large amount of blood spilled on the arena. Ing Qiao's soul just floated out of her physical body weakly. He immediately grabbed it and crushed it. At this point, Ing Qiao's soul and spirit were both destroyed. Yan Zai gnashed his teeth. Even though he had faced too many life and death situations, he still felt very uncomfortable to watch Ing Qiao die in front of him. Not to mention the young Jiang Run. His eyes were bloodshot. It was the first time for him to feel such a feeling of humiliation. Ling Qinglan took a deep breath, suppressed the boiling killing intent in his heart, and looked in the direction of Su Li. He wanted to see what she would do. Su Li just stood there silently, and her face was as calm as a pool of stagnant water. Fellow practitioner Su, I'm sorry. This kind of thing is common in the cultivation circle. I'm sorry for your loss. The man in white saw that she stood there sadly, and transmitted the sound in silence apologetically. Su Li quickly turned her eyes. Her eyes seemed to be soaked in ink, and they were as dark as gems. Anyway, thank you for your help. Can you tell me the process of transmitting the sound in silence just now? The man in white looked at Su Li's calm face and heard her calm tone. His pupils shrank, and a chill suddenly rose in his heart. What a horrible state of mind. He could not see any anger on her face. This woman, suppressing the surprise in his heart, the man in white hurriedly transmitted the sound in silence. Of course, I transmitted the sound in silence just now. Zhao Qianlin was naturally afraid of your strength and ranking. His performance in the Han sect was not very good, and the Grand Elder who supported him was unfortunately killed by a mysterious female practitioner. He would not deliberately make more enemies. Speaking of this, the man in white also felt that something was wrong and frowned. Later, Zhao Qianlin's face suddenly changed. It is very likely that someone also said something to him at that time, but what was the reason? The man in white couldn't figure it out. Su Li's eyes turned, and many clues flashed in her mind, but she could not get anything for a while. She sighed softly. Anyway, thank you very much for this time. I haven't asked your name yet. The man in white smiled faintly. I'm Lu Xian from the Holy Snow sect. Su Li's eyes flashed. In the early years, I met a young practitioner named Lu Yan, who was also from the Holy Snow sect. The man in white nodded. Lu Yan is my younger brother. Before leaving, my younger brother often mentioned you and hoped that I could take care of you. Now it seems that it is unnecessary. Lu Yan, thank you. Su Li recalled the boy in white who rarely talked in the Tsang Lei's cave. He boasted that he was the 9th on the Tianjiao list at that time. Lu Xian shook his head helplessly. That boy was spoiled by me. Please forgive him, Your Excellency. Su Li looked back and calmly looked at the recovered arena. Fellow practitioner Lu Xian, I have a question, and I don't know if I can get an answer from you. Lu Xian nodded. Fellow Daoist Su, please speak your mind. What do you think of the bloody accident in Zhouzhou region that year? Su Li tilted her head and stared straight at Lu Xian with a faint smile on her face. People in our Zhouzhou region are all. I want to know what the outside world thinks of this. Lu Xian was baffled and suddenly felt his hair stand on end. However, he still said, the Holy Snow sect is too far away from the Zhuzhou region. In addition, the sect is strictly prohibited from participating in the Life Palace's plan. Although I've heard a lot of hearsay, only those who truly participated in the Holy Maiden know what she was like. I don't dare to jump to conclusions. Lu Xian answered very cautiously, and he might have even noticed some clues. In Taoist Lu's hands, the future of the Sacred Snow sect will definitely flourish. Su Li praised and ended the conversation. After Lu Xian sat back on the immortal platform, he thought about it carefully. He always felt that there was another meaning hidden in this sentence. But after thinking about it, he felt that he thought too much. Even someone as strong as Ling Li can't make me feel frightened. This woman is very terrible. It's better not to offend her. I'm afraid that Zhao Qianlin. Lu Xian frowned and made a conclusion secretly in his heart. The outside world, Xianan and Hu Shichen, who had been paying attention to Su Li, were shocked when they saw this scene. Zhao Qianlin. All the people in Han's sect deserve to die. Hu Shichen couldn't help but curse in a low voice. He didn't forget to comfort Xianan beside him, don't worry. Lord Qingshui will definitely avenge Qiao. Xianan's eyes were red, and he nodded. Although he was sad, he was not angry. He knew his sister much better than Hu Shichen. He was afraid that not only Zhao Qianlin, but the whole Han sect would bear the anger of his sister. Zai, how long has it been? Su Li put down the booklet in her hand, raised her head, and saw the arena that had been cleaned many times. It's been more than 3 months. Yan Zai replied helplessly. In the past 3 months, the three of them didn't even have a fight, which was really puzzling. Jiang Run won 3 games and entered the top 10,000, but he almost reached the limit. In the past 3 months, people died constantly, and some people were promoted from the lower immortal platforms. Except for a group of people in the first immortal platform, almost half of the people in the first immortal platform had been replaced. Because they didn't fight, the rankings of the 3 people also fell. Yan Zai and Su Li were fine, and they only fell hundreds of places. Because Ling Qinglan didn't fight for a long time, his ranking had fallen to more than 10,000, even lower than Jiang Run. Even if Ling Qinglan had good self-cultivation, he didn't look good during this time. Su Li shook her head, and the voice of the secret realm sounded again. Rank 13332, yes, rank 388. Ling Qinglan was slightly stunned, and then his eyes lit up. Wasn't he ranked 13,332? Swish! 2 rays of light flashed from the immortal platforms, and 2 figures appeared on the arena. The familiar frost spread to Ling Qinglan's feet. Ling Qinglan naturally wouldn't retreat like Ying Qiao, but he took 2 steps forward. Zhao Qianlin. I'm so lucky. He raised his head and saw Zhao Qianlin's face. Zhao Qianlin's usually indifferent face showed a very bright smile, and his killing intent swept over. Zhao Qianlin frowned. He was unfamiliar with this person, and he had never met him before. Do I have a grudge against you? Originally, no. Ling Qinglan's eyes were cold, and he waved his hand. Countless diamond-shaped shadows rushed out from behind, and covered the whole shield in the blink of an eye. Now, if you die too casually, I will feel sorry. Chapter 574. 34 Chinese Network, in 1 second wonderful pop-up window free reading. The purple shadows that filled the sky poured down along with the voice, densely packed like purple clouds pressing down on the border. What kind of spell is that? Zhao Qianlin was shocked. He waved his sleeves and threw out a round shield. He crossed his hands, and the round shield immediately trembled and expanded, shielding him behind. Ding! 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 The purple shadows kept falling, and the dense crashing sounds resounded through the nothingness. Zhao Qianlin's face became paler every time he hit. Even if he gritted his teeth, he couldn't help but step back. He was shocked. Such strength. Zhao Qianlin hated in his heart, damn it. This person is ranked below 10,000, but he is so strong. There is no trace of physical practice. He is definitely not in the Huashan realm. He must be a mighty in nature's test. If I don't admit defeat, I will definitely die. He thought quickly in his heart and was about to admit defeat. But how could Ling Qinglan let him do that? Whenever Zhao Qianlin wanted to admit defeat, he would be beaten back by Ling Qinglan with one move. Zhao Qianlin is suppressed by someone who is ranked below 10,000. Tut tut, Zhao Qianlin is a talent in the first echelon. His strength is only below those great holy sons, and he is even more powerful than the great holy sons of holy sections. However, he is beaten by an unknown young man and can't even admit defeat. Is there going to be a big change in Qingshui Circle? Many talents were stunned and had their own thoughts. There must be something wrong when something abnormal happened. There were dark horses every year, but it was rare this time. Lu Xian looked at the one-sided crushing in the field, and he was stunned and thoughtful. This person is extremely powerful and can suppress Zhao Qianlin instantly, but he chose to play like a cat playing with a mouse. I can faintly see a trace of anger. Is it because of the female practitioner who died just now? He glanced at Su Li, who looked indifferent, and then glanced at Yan Zai, who was expressionless. His eyes suddenly darkened. Is it, I admit defeat, puff. Zhao Qianlin spat out blood and flew out awkwardly. He fell heavily on the ground, leaving a trail of blood behind. Ling Qinglan drew back his sleeves and gathered them. He walked over step by step with a cold face. Did I say you could talk? Zhao Qianlin's face was deathly pale. He wanted to crawl up, yet his body trembled uncontrollably. Obviously, he was an arrow at the end of its flight. Let me go. I have no enmity with you. The hoarse voice transmission sounded in Ling Qinglan's ears. Ling Qinglan smiled slightly and his eyes were cold. He said, no grudge. What you should do now is to accompany Qiao, as soon as possible. Ing Qiao, the female cultivator. Zhao Qianlin's eyes widened. He finally understood why he was in such a predicament, and he felt extremely regretful in his heart. He immediately ignored the warning from that person and swiftly sent a voice transmission. Wait. I was also instructed by someone to kill Ing Qiao by mistake. Now that I think about it, she clearly wanted me to become enemies with you and then destroy the relationship between the Han sect and your sect. Ling Qinglan slowed down and frowned slightly. Who is she? Zhao Qianlin immediately heaved a sigh of relief. I can tell you, sir, but only if you let me go and let me admit defeat. Ling Qinglan sneered and said, let you go. Are you dreaming? Zhao Qianlin's face changed slightly. I am Zhao Qianyuan's younger brother. If you kill me, he will not let you go. Why do you offend the whole Han sect for a dead person? Ling Qinglan sneered and changed his gesture. Two purple shadows instantly penetrated Zhao Qianlin's chest and brought out a vigorous heart. Zhao Qianlin's heart was full of vitality. Dirty. Zhao Qianlin's face instantly turned pale. The odd-shaped jade on his neck flashed rapidly. He looked up with longing. In the space of the seventh throne, the man who looked similar to Zhao Qianlin suddenly woke up from meditation. He reached out to hold the odd-shaped jade on his neck. His eyes were as deep as a quiet lake. After a moment of silence, he closed his eyes again. The seventh throne didn't move for a long time. Zhao Qianlin was absent-minded for a moment, and suddenly laughed crazily. Ha 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 ha, Zhao Qianyuan. Zhao Qianlin suddenly raised his head. The jealousy and hatred in his eyes seemed to burn the void. He stared at Ling Qinglan for a moment and trembled. Then he grabbed his heart crazily and crushed it into pieces. Ling Qinglan was stunned and unconsciously let go of the gesture. Zhao Qianlin's physique was ordinary. He lost his heart and his physical body was destroyed. There was no possibility for him to recover. Those who kill will be killed. Zhao Qianlin's weak voice sounded with deep hatred. I don't hate you. I can even tell you who is behind it. But in exchange, you have to kill Zhao Qianyuan. What brotherhood? It's all fake. Zhao Qianlin became weaker and weaker. He laughed so hard that his mouth was full of blood. Can you do it? Ling Qinglan nodded. Even if you don't say it, no one in Han sect can leave Xingxian Mountain alive. Zhao Qianlin was slightly stunned. Ling Qinglan smiled and reached out to extinguish the last aura on Zhao Qianlin's forehead. Even, the master will not allow Han sect to continue to exist. Go in peace. Master. I see. Zhao Qianlin came to a sudden understanding, and he actually closed his eyes with a trace of serenity. Ranking 13,332. Promotion, 388. Everyone was silent. Around Lu Xian, several people frowned. Zhao Qianlin's strength is definitely not weak, but he died in the hands of this person. This person's strength can be ranked in the top 30. The bloody accident of Holy Spirit has affected many sections. Many holy sons and holy virgins have broken the taboo and reached the realm of nature's test, which is comparable to the elders of holy sections. The top 30 are all in nature's test. That is to say, this person also broke the taboo and is in nature's test. We rely on the influence of our sections. What does this person rely on? Thinking of this, many people's expressions changed slightly. They all thought of a guess, and then they all looked at a young man in a black robe with a vertical thunder pattern between his eyebrows. The young man had no choice but to say, I just observed him with the pupil skill, but I couldn't find any flaws. He should not have changed his face. Everyone was suddenly disappointed. Even the holy son of Fenglei sect can't see it. It seems that the guess is wrong. Lu Xian's eyes flashed, and he suddenly remembered what Su Jiuzhou asked him about the bloody accident of Holy Spirit. Was it also possible that the secret skill of camouflage they used could not be seen through by the pupil skill of Fenglei sect? Su Jiuzhou, the same surname is Su. How can there be such a coincidence in the world? Those holy sects in those years seemed to be in trouble. Lu Xian was gloating in his heart. He did not have a good impression of the life sect's lackeys. On the other side, Ling Qinglan returned to the immortal platform and received a lot of awe. Master, before Zhao Qianlin died, after listening to Ling Qinglan, Su Li nodded slightly. She pondered for a moment and transmitted the sound to Lu Xian. How much do you know about Tian Meiji of Meiji sect, fellow practitioner Lu? Lu Xian was slightly shocked and quickly reacted, it's her. He frowned for a moment and said, Meiji sect is in our holy snow region, and I have also heard of the talents of the sect. Xian Meiji, a good friend of my younger brother, was the leader of the next generation. Although Tian Meiji was a holy girl, she was not powerful because of her low talent. It was very likely that when Xian Meiji grew up, it would be the time for Tian Meiji to abdicate. But just a few years ago, Tian Meiji's talents suddenly broke out, and her cultivation soared rapidly. She crossed several realms and directly stepped into nature's test from the bottom. She became the top 30 on the Tianjiao list. The news of my younger brother's good friend became less and less. Speaking of this, Lu Xian paused slightly and carefully worded, fellow practitioner Su, since I know your identity. Tian Meiji is also likely to know it. Your junior sister apprentice was killed just now. I guess she was targeting you. It's her indeed. Su Li nodded without hesitation. She smiled and nodded, thank you for telling me everything, fellow practitioner Lu. No one needs to intervene in this matter, and I will handle it myself. Fellow practitioner Su, you are too serious. Lu Xian had a guess about Su Li's identity in his heart. Hearing this, he suddenly felt flattered. The questions hovering in his mind were on the tip of his tongue several times, but he couldn't ask them in the end. The Tianjiao battle once again entered the normal process. Su Li sat back on the immortal platform and didn't look at Tian Meiji's. For her, it was meaningless. The space of the secret realm calmed down, but the atmosphere outside became more and more tense. Even the hall watching the video was affected. High-level officials of holy sects came to question one after another. There was no problem with Hu Shichen and Xian'en's background, so they were soon fooled. After watching the people of holy sects leave, Hu Shichen breathed a sigh of relief and transmitted the sound carefully. The people who killed Zhao Qianlin are the group of people who knew Lord Qingshui before, right? Xian'en nodded with lingering fear. I didn't expect them to be so terrifying. I seem to have made a lot of jokes with them. Where did this group of people come from? If they can all join the Holy Land, how powerful it will be. Hu Shichen sighed whimsically. Now the outside world is in a mess. Lord Qingshui and others are under absolute attention. I hope they can survive this disaster safely. Xian'en's eyes flashed and he nodded. Based on his understanding of his sister, he always felt that the current situation was within his sister's expectation. What does my sister want to do? Xian'en's heartbeat accelerated slightly, and he calmed down after taking a deep breath. Time flew by. In the blink of an eye, it had been half a year since the third round of the Immortal Platform battle began. In the past 3 months, the number of substitutions of the first Immortal Platform was much less than that of the previous 3 months, and the number of talents who died was also less. In the next 6 months, there would be even fewer. It was worth mentioning that although Jiang Run's cultivation was not high, he actually stayed until now. His cultivation also broke through in the battle and reached the late stage of Huashan realm. Relying on the secret skill that Ling Mo taught him, he persisted on the edge of 20,000. It was extremely difficult for him to do this. This boy is a good seedling. Ling Mo got lucky. There was a trace of envy in Ling Qinglan's words. Since Su Li destroyed the Yin tribe, his skills were facing extinction, and he really needed to find a successor. After this, you will have enough time to find one. Su Li said casually and transmitted the sound to Jiang Run. Do what you can and keep your trump card. Your master is still counting on you to send him off. Jiang Run was adjusting his breath. When he suddenly heard this sentence, he almost went astray. Ahem, thank you for your concern, Lord Qingshui. I know what to do. Chapter 575. You can search for Poisonous Wife on Baidu. You can search for the latest chapter. Half a year passed in the blink of an eye. The Battle of Immortals was coming to an end. The talents who won the first Immortal were about to return. The Immortal Ascension City became more and more lively. A large number of practitioners poured into the city, wanting to see the top talents of Qingshui Circle. At this moment, in the Tianya Inn, Xia Wei listened to Shao Xi's words. Tianya Master, we were almost set on fire 23 times, attacked 35 times at night, and robbed 244 times this year. Fortunately, we were prepared and didn't let them succeed. Shao Xi said proudly, puffing out his not-so-strong chest. Xia Wei rubbed his eyebrows. The frequency was much higher than in previous years. Waiter, check in. An old and hoarse voice rang out from the outer hall. Shao Xi immediately ran outside. I'm sorry, old senior, our inn is already full. Xia Wei didn't pay attention to the outside world. He frowned and thought for a moment. Suddenly, he felt that something was wrong. Why was it so quiet outside? He raised his eyebrows, got up, pushed the door open, and walked into the outer hall. Suddenly, he saw Shao Xi explaining something with cold sweat on his forehead. Obviously, he was tired of dealing with it. Opposite him stood a tall white-haired old man in a loose black robe. He didn't look good. He took a step forward and said with a smile, How did our Tianyan offend you, senior? If Shao Xi is not good enough, please let me know. The white-haired old man turned his head and stared at Xia Wei with his gray eyes. Are you the sub-valley master of the Tianya Valley? Xia Wei stiffened with just one glance. He had the illusion of being stared at by the ancestor of the sect. He breathed slightly, but he could barely maintain a smile. He waved his hand and said, "Senior, it seems that you came prepared. Why don't we talk in the inner hall?" The white-haired old man snorted, "That's more like it." Then, he walked into the inner hall. Xia Wei took a deep breath and transmitted his voice to Xiaoxi. "Go and make tea. Boil ancient spring." Xiaoxi's face changed slightly, and his hair was a little numb. "That's all spirits, don't talk nonsense. Go." The inner hall wasn't big, and the decorations were simple, making it look rather grand. After the two of them sat down and Xiaoxi poured tea, Xia Wei, who had been observing the white-haired old man, finally probed, "Heavenly Star Valley, that is a very ancient name. We, the Tainik Attic, have not used that name since the Qingshui calendar. Senior, could it be?" The white-haired old man took a sip of tea, and a trace of nostalgia flashed in his eyes. Although the name has changed, the tea used to serve guests still tastes the same. How nostalgic. When Xia Wei heard this, the hands hidden in her sleeves trembled, and her expression changed. Did he really live since the myriad spirit calendar? Just how old was this guy he had encountered? After leisurely drinking a cup of tea, the white-haired old man put down the teacup and glanced at the stiff Xia Wei. He snorted coldly and said, "Stupid kid, do you really think you can fool this old man with that little bit of cleverness? If not for the fact that you are a disciple of Heavenly Star Valley and that my temper has weakened over the years, would you still be standing here talking to me? Please forgive me, senior." Xia Wei broke out in a cold sweat. He cupped his fists and said, "I didn't mean to offend you." "Humph, it's good that you know you are wrong." The white-haired old man pointed at the table and said, "With the intelligence ability of your Heavenly Star Valley, you probably have some guesses about this old man's identity." Xia Wei smiled embarrassedly. At this moment, he also realized that the horrible old monster in front of him didn't seem to be so difficult to talk to. He relaxed a little and answered honestly, 1 year ago, a few days before the Talents battle began. In a forbidden place in the immortal Ascension City, the Ghost City's thatched cottage suddenly collapsed. At that time, I sent people to investigate it, and then I found a lot of information. Speaking of this, Xia Wei paused slightly and asked cautiously, "Senior, are you Yi Che, Senior Yi?" The white-haired old man stroked his beard and said with a smile, "The intelligence of Heavenly Star Valley is really worthy of its reputation." This sentence clearly meant that he admitted it. Xia Wei sucked in a breath of cold air. A ghost from 40,000 years ago was actually able to survive until now. Just what secrets were hidden in that thatched hut? Boy of Heavenly Star Valley, this old man is here to know what happened to the Ghost Clan. Can you tell me? Xia Wei went straight to the point. Xia Wei suddenly looked embarrassed. "Senior, you also know the rules of Heavenly Star Valley. I'm penniless." Yi Che interrupted him with a calm expression, "But your Heavenly Star Valley can also exchange intelligence for intelligence, right? I'll give you 3 chances to ask questions, and you answer my doubts twice. How about that?" Xia Wei was waiting for this sentence, and a smile appeared on his face. "Deal." After a long time, Yi Che appeared at the door of Tianya Inn with his sleeves rolled up. He looked up at the immortal Ascension Mountain in the distance and left Tianya Inn calmly. Inside the room, Xia Wei sat at the table in a daze. The tea had already become cold. "Cliff Lord?" Xiaoxi said cautiously. Xia Wei came to his senses and sighed softly, "I wanted the intelligence of Yi Che just for the position of this generation's Cliff Lord. I didn't expect that Su Jiuzhou was actually from the Ghost Clan." He shook his head and smiled bitterly, "The hatred between the Ghost Clan and Xingtian Shrine is absolutely irreconcilable. This time, I'm afraid that there will be a big fight." Xiaoxi scratched his head, "Don't we need to remind Xingtian Shrine?" Xia Wei glanced at Xiaoxi strangely, "I leaked the intelligence to the Ghost Clan. If I go to inform Xingtian Shrine at this moment, I'm not a man on both sides. It seems to make sense. Xiao Si suddenly understood, and then he was distressed. Then shall we take sides directly? Su Jojo, that female practitioner, can she do it? Even if she can't, she has to do it. Xia Wei seemed to have overcome some obstacles in his heart, and his tone was firm. When necessary, I will help her. As he said, he looked up, and his eyes seemed to pass through countless fierceness and fell into the Tianjiao secret realm. Let me see exactly how capable you are. A few days later, the periphery of the Black Stone Square was full of practitioners who came to join in the fun. At exactly noon, the calm whirlpool suddenly began to expand continuously. Then, it spat out countless rays of light with a swoosh, transforming into numerous figures that fell into the square. They are coming. They are coming out. Only the top talents of the first immortal platform are qualified to appear from this exit. Is that the top talents? What a horrible momentum. Just a glance at me will suffocate me. The cultivators who were waiting suddenly burst into an uproar. There were also many cultivators who stared at the vortex with unfriendly expressions, as if they were waiting for someone to appear. Finally, after a burst of rays of light, Su Li and the other three appeared in the square. At this moment, the noise almost overturned the sky. It's the three dark horses. They are so powerful. They are unknown, but they have entered the top 100 of the Tianjiao list. I don't know if they can continue to create miracles in the Battle of Xingxian Mountain. Maybe even the top 10 of the Tianjiao list will be pulled down. The top 10 of the Tianjiao list this time are all decided by Tianqing Valley. They are not qualified at all. Someone just said this, but he was so scared that he shut up immediately. Swish. 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 The whirlpool spat out rays of light for the last time, and 30 figures appeared at once. The rays of light dissipated, and Lu Xian and others appeared one after another. They are the top 30 of the Tianjiao list. The peerless strongmen of our Qingshui circle must be born from these people. The future giants are lucky to see them. I have no regrets in my life. The 10 most intense rays of light are the top 10 of the Tianjiao list. Su Li looked at them and nodded slightly to greet them. Then she looked away, and her eyes fell on the first 10 most intense rays of light. The rays of light scattered, the familiar black robe and the tall figure finally appeared. Two equally indifferent gazes met unexpectedly. Like stagnant water, there were no waves. Like a deep pool, there was no bottom. Time seemed to be frozen at this moment. At this moment, her state of mind was actually extraordinarily calm. The chaotic love and hatred of the past had been buried deep like fine wine, and it was quiet and mellow. Ling Li didn't look away, and a strange feeling gradually rose in his heart. He didn't know why he didn't avoid her eyes. Maybe it was the familiar feeling in his soul, or the black lotus mark at the corner of her eyes was inexplicably dazzling. Is it you who killed my brother? A cold voice suddenly broke the silence. Su Li moved her eyes away and looked at the man in cyan who walked slowly to Ling Qinglan. Ling Qinglan looked at him and teased, Zhao Qianyuan. Zhao Qianyuan's face was cold and solemn. Hearing Ling Qinglan's indifference, he said coldly, I won't let you go out of the Xingxian mountain alive. Hearing that, Ling Qinglan remembered that Zhao Qianyuan didn't even dare to fart in front of him. He couldn't help but shake his head and laugh, I hope you won't regret it at that time. Ridiculous. Zhao Qianyuan snorted, but he didn't want to continue to be entangled in this matter. He swung his sleeves and left. Almost everyone in the holy sects knows what happened between the two brothers. You killed Zhao Qianlin, and he was very happy. Yan Zai sneered, especially after the death of the Grand Elder of Han sect, he wanted to kill you for a long time. At this moment, he came here to say some harsh words just to save face. Let's go. After saying that, Su Li was about to turn around and leave. Ling Li thought for a while. He wanted to ask her several times because of the strange feeling just now, but he didn't move because of his identity at the moment. Fellow practitioner Su, take care. Suddenly, Ling Xian's voice, which was pretending to be elegant, came from beside him. Su Li stopped and looked back with some doubts. What's the matter? Ling Xian walked slowly to Su Li with a very friendly and cordial smile on her face. Sister, you look so young. In this Battle of Immortals Foundation, you have become famous. I don't know if you have the honor to be my friend. Be my friend? Su Li suddenly smiled, but it was hard to tell what kind of smile it was. Ling Li instinctively felt that it was not a happy expression. Ling Xian didn't feel anything. Seeing that Su Li was more and more enthusiastic, she thought faster. When she was about to continue to praise Su Li, she saw, the delicate and soft face suddenly became as cold as an iceberg. It's a pity that you, Ling Xian, are not qualified to be my friend. Chapter 576. You can search, Poisonous Wife, in Baidu. Search for the latest chapter. As soon as this was said, the noise in the field immediately became silent. Ling Xian's expression was instantly stiff, and she reluctantly continued to smile. Sister, did I say something wrong? This joke is not funny. Su Li looked at her coldly and did not respond. Ling Xian's expression finally became cold, and she said in a deep voice, I learned from the Fate Ancestor, and I am also the candidate for the next power of Xingtian Shrine. It is the first time that someone told me that I am not qualified. Su Jouzhou, you are very good. You don't need to worry about me. Su Li smiled, as if she didn't hear the two words that showed off her identity. She casually responded, waved to the two people around her, and turned away. Ling Xian looked at her back, and her pretty face was cold. Su Jouzhou is so bold that she even dares to offend Ling Xian. She must have someone to rely on. Otherwise, isn't she courting death? I'm afraid that there will be a good show in the 4th round of Immortals Mountain. It's a pity that we can't see it through the light-splitting stone. Ho ho, Ling Xian feels inexplicably happy when she suffers a loss. Ha 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 ha, keep your voice down. This woman never looks down on others. The evil emperor is cold in nature. She pretends to be neither. She really thinks that she can compete with the evil emperor. Although the discussion was very low, it could still be heard. Ling Li's lips twitched. Ling Xian's face had already turned red with anger, and it had a tendency to develop to the color of pig liver. Let's go. Ling Xian squeezed the words out of her teeth, and the maids around her immediately followed her. After the farce was over, it soon became a topic of discussion among practitioners and spread throughout the Immortals City. Su Jouzhou, what a crazy female practitioner. She even looks down on the top holy sections. Her background must be great. But apart from other top holy sects, which force in Qingshui Circle can compete with Xingtian Shrine? I don't know. At the same time, Su Li and the other three returned to the spring courtyard of the Tianya Inn after meeting with Xianan and Huashichen. Dongfang Wuxue and others who lived in the autumn courtyard didn't avoid it and came directly. Huashichen counted the number of people. His expression was heavy, but there was a hint of relief in it. The Jiguang sect lost 7 people, the Wanjian sect lost 2 people, and the Holy Land lost 3 people, which is less than I thought. Including Lord Qing Shui, little brother Jiang Run also made it to the 4th round, far exceeding my expectations. Jiang Run couldn't hide the sadness in his eyes, but his emotions were still relatively stable. Elder, you flatter me. I was just lucky. As for the 2 youngsters from the 10,000 Swords Pavilion, my condolences. The casualty rate in the Heaven's Pride battle is extremely high. It's already a miracle that 2 of you survived. Huashichen comforted him. The 2 people sitting on one side looked at each other. They suddenly stood up and bowed to Ling Qinglan. Thank you, senior brother, for helping junior sister take revenge at all costs. They understood that it was utterly impossible for them to seek revenge from Zhao Qianlin by relying on the little bit of cultivation they possessed. It's fine. Ling Qinglan waved his hand and said, sit down. I have my reasons for doing this. I will tell you in detail later. The two were slightly stunned when they heard the words, and sat down full of doubts. Li Hai glanced at Su Li, took out a light diffraction stone, and placed it in the center of the table where everyone sat around. With a clatter, the light diffraction stone reflected a list, which was densely packed with rankings. This is a miniature list made by Tianyik Attic. The information on it is incomplete, but it can be used as a reference. Li Hai explained and sat down. Hua Shichen repeatedly cupped his fists and thanked him. This item is extremely expensive, and I can't afford it. It's really generous that Lord Li can share this item. Li Hai suddenly smiled and said meaningfully, Hua Shichen, don't be a stranger. We will have many opportunities to cooperate in the future. Hua Shichen was confused. At this moment, the list was in front of him, and he didn't ask in detail. He turned his head and focused on the list. Shengtian Shrine, Lingli, ranking 1. Most of the talents on this list have marked their origins, which is much clearer than the Jade Token ranking announced in the Heaven's Pride Mysterious Realm. Xianan exclaimed and looked down. Soon, he found a ranking without Su Li, Unknown Force, Su Jiuzhou, ranking 29. He couldn't help but take a deep breath, and then said happily, Sister, you are really amazing. In this way, after the 4th round, our Jiguang sect will be promoted to the name of a holy sect. Su Li smiled, let's continue to look down. Okay. Xianan continued to look down excitedly, and soon found the next one. Unknown Force, Unknown Name. Ranking, 87. He read it out, looked up at Ling Qinglan and Yen Zai, and saw Ling Qinglan take out a jade token, on which the word 87 was flashing. Then Yen Zai also took out a jade token, on which the word 92 was flashing. Tut, my luck is still worse than yours. Yen Zai said helplessly. Ling Qinglan nodded in agreement. The gap of 4 or 5 ranks doesn't mean anything. The ranking of Xingxian Mountain in the 4th round will inevitably change. Of course. Yen Zai reached out and hugged Jiang Run, who was sitting aside. Don't look at Jiang Run. He is now in the back. Maybe he can run to the top 100 in the end. Jiang Run waved his hand repeatedly. How is that possible? Yen Zai smiled and didn't say much. At this time, Dongfang Wuxue walked in from the door and said, the statistics of Tianyik Attic are out. In the 3rd round of the Battle of Immortals, nearly 60% of the talents who went to participate in the battle died. In the end, almost all the low-level immortals were empty. The practitioners who got the information of Tianyik Attic outside also had a heated discussion. More than 600,000 people went in, and only more than 200,000 people came out. The Tianjiao battle is really a real meat grinder. In the bloody accident of the Holy Spirit, only 100,000 talents died. Many talents who died in the Tianjiao battle are not qualified. How can they be compared with the bloody accident of the Holy Spirit? Those who died in that year were the top talents of each holy sect. After that, the great holy son of each holy sect betrayed the sect and left, which had a far-reaching impact. That's true. Although we can't see the situation inside the Battle of Xingxian Mountain, the spirit of the Tianjiao secret realm will announce the information of all the participants. The 4th round will be in 3 days. In the room, Hua Shichen looked at Su Li expectantly. Lady Qingshui, the future of the Holy Land depends on you this time. Su Li nodded, then tilted her head slightly, squinted her eyes and chuckled. Elder Hua, since the 4th round has begun, there are some things that I need to tell you. Pavilion Head Wen was right. There was a change. Hua Shichen's expression changed slightly, but he didn't panic. He told the other people of Jiguang's sect, you all leave first. The people of Jiguang's sect looked at each other and left one after another. Elder Hua, Lady Qingshui may have some private affairs. She can't be an enemy. Jiang Run secretly transmitted the sound and was about to leave. Su Li suddenly said, Jiang Run and Xianan, you two stay. Me? Jiang Run was slightly stunned, and was pulled back to his seat by Xianan. Since my sister asked you to stay, sit down. Jiang Run scratched his head and responded obediently, oh. Hua Shichen glanced at Yan Zai and others next to Su Li, and he had some guesses in his heart. He said in a deep voice, Lady Qingshui, you can say it now. Su Li nodded and beckoned Li Hai to come forward. Let me introduce him again. He used to be the deputy lord of Yushu sect in Zhouzhou region, Li Hai. Li Hai reached out and cupped his fists. Hua Shichen immediately stood up and came back. He thought that Elder Qingshui was at most a spy from other sects, but he didn't expect that the first sentence completely broke his conjecture. Yushu sect. After the bloody accident of Holy Spirit, who didn't know the name of this sect? Although this sect was only a top-grade sect, its particularity could be compared with that of holy sections. Zhouzhou region was the most special big region in Qingshui circle except for Immortal region. The spies of holy sects were everywhere, and they were extremely sensitive. Once, Jiang Run frowned, but noticed that Su Li's words implied something. Sister, my hunch is right. Xianan laughed, and his eyes flickered. He guessed, I always thought that your origin must be amazing. Now it seems that the deputy lord of Yushu sect listens to you. I heard that the lord of Yushu sect is an old man. Sister, you are so young and beautiful. You must be the holy girl, right? The holy girl of Yushu sect. Fang Ling. Hua Shichen gradually clenched his fists in his sleeves. If what Xianan said was true, then, this woman was the enemy. Elder Hua, don't be nervous. Li Hai glanced at Su Li respectfully, and said on behalf of him, I do listen to the master, but the master is not the holy girl of Yushu sect. Master? Hua Shichen felt uncomfortable again. That was the supreme title of the Holy Land. Only the master of Linli building deserved this title. Not the holy girl. Xianan was stunned and asked incredulously, is it the great elder of Yushu? The great elder of Yushu. That was the top enemy. Jiang Run's eyes became sharp, but Li Hai smiled silently. No, the great elder of Yushu has become the master's prisoner. It was an understatement, but it was earth-shattering. What? Hua Shichen's eyes widened, as if he couldn't believe what he had just heard, prisoner. I didn't hear it wrong. Jiang Run's fists gradually loosened. He stared at Su Li's calm and indifferent face, and his eyes gradually brightened. Elder Hua, you didn't hear it wrong. Yan Zai laughed and said proudly, as early as a year ago, the master led the Ni sect to flatten Zihan sect, destroy Yushu sect, and occupy 25 sections. All the holy sects were controlled in just 3 days. The person sitting in front of you is the great elder of Ni sect, the lord of Zhouzhou region, Su Zhouzhou. The words, like a storm, swept the hearts of the 3 people in an instant. Clang! Hua Shichen's body trembled violently, and he fell from his position unsteadily. He stared at Su Li, whose face was the same as before, but he could no longer treat her as an ordinary elder. The lord of a region. What kind of identity was this? Her status was comparable to that of a junior emperor. In their Jiguang sect, the only one who could be called a junior emperor was the old first elder who was practicing in isolation. Within 3 days, all the spies of the holy sects were controlled, and no news was allowed to spread. What kind of means was this? Almost 80% of the spies of the holy sects in Qingshui circle were found and controlled instantly. How much manpower and time would it take? In his opinion, this was simply an impossible task. And the image of the master who coordinated all this, Su Zhouzhou, in his mind instantly became illusory. Why did such a mysterious and powerful female practitioner sneak into the Holy Land and become a small elder? You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.